Hey guys, welcome back to another Weird Wednesday. I'm Asherz, and this is
Tobias.
Tobias. How was your holiday?
Good. Good. Yeah, I mean, honestly, with the new book coming out and all of the appearances and everything I had going on in December, it almost felt like I didn't have as much of a holiday as
Yeah,
I would have, which I know sounds weird because the book it's literally a holiday book, but it didn't leave as much time for a lot of the little traditions and just sort of appreciating the season that I would normally do. And then on top of that, it's an El Nino year, and so it's everything was all warm and there was no snow. It was like 50 degrees on Christmas here,
yeah.
which was it was less than ideal, but everything was great. Otherwise, I got to see a lot of family. We always go to my in-laws for Christmas Eve, and that's nice. They're all wonderful people, and then we host my family over here on Christmas Day, and that went great too. And it's nice to be able to provide a little bit of holiday magic for my family, because we really, I say we, but really Emily goes all out decorating, and so the house just is very festive, and I think that's great, so yeah, it was great. How was your holidays? How did Christmas go?
Oh yeah, I guess we haven't talked since. it was it was okay. I got COVID, so
Oh, that's right. No, I saw that. Shit, yeah, that sucks.
yes, yeah. Speaking of holidays, just not feeling like holidays. Well,
Yeah.
you
There's nothing like COVID to just ruin Christmas. Yeah.
It was just like the whole universe this year, and I feel like a lot of people kind of went through this. They're like, "Well, it just didn't feel like Christmas for a lot
Right.
of folks," and that happens. There's next Christmas, but
Oh
no,
yeah.
I got COVID like it was a week before Christmas. So I mean, I was still very much in the throes of it come Christmas Day, but we still managed to do family stuff afterwards. I it wasn't just me that my mom got it too. So my daughter, I told this story last week for the listeners, but I'll tell you, my daughter had a birthday party, and you and I recorded that next day right after her birthday
Mm.
party. Well, she wasn't feeling good, and, come to find out she had COVID. One of the kids that showed up at the party was kinda acting strange. Well, he had COVID, and so it's, it just out of I think it was 21 people we had in total, only 5 ended up with COVID, so that's not bad. We
I
didn't
mean, that's
mean
like 25% almost, but sure.
not terrible. We didn't mean to have a super spreader event. It's just, nah, this is the life that we live now. So,
Yeah.
what can you do?
Well, that is
But
kind of the world we're in though,
right.
where COVID is this thing and we all have to live with it and we all try to take steps to mitigate it while still maintaining some sense of normalcy in our lives, because
Yeah.
what option do we really have at this point? So I get it. What's fun for me though, if I can find some levity in your your situation,
Sure.
is that like I'm just picturing like the beginning of a zombie movie where one kid shows up to this birthday party and he's looking a little off. He's looking like a little, just a little pale, maybe he's a little sweaty or something, and just like, it's fine. And then he starts biting, then he starts biting the like the other kids. Next thing you know, you get a full blown zombie apocalypse. So
Just spreading through the birthday, the bowling alley birthday party. Now it
right.
he was the sibling of one of the well, it's my best friend's kid. She's got 2 kids. My daughter's really
Hmm.
close with one, not so much close with the other. And the other's kind of he has a tendency to kind of act strange around large groups of people. And we just thought that he was just acting weird. And he left early, so she left, and the mom left and came back. And well, come to find out, it's because he didn't feel good.
Right.
So it was just one of those things. But I survived it. I'm still having residual issues from COVID. I don't know if they'll ever go away. I still can't smell anything. Never lost my sense of taste though.
Hmm.
But I can't smell anything. I don't know. I have no idea.
Wow.
I could be walking around town smelling like an armpit and I would have no idea. I don't know why I would, but I could and I wouldn't
You could
notice.
now. Who cares? You might as
Right.
well. You can't smell it,
Right. So just everybody else that's got to deal with it.
right?
Um,
Fuck them.
but it put a damper on my plans, and so I, as everybody knows, I took 2 weeks off the show and didn't upload for those 2 weeks. And during that time, I've got these other shows that I have been working on and trying to get out, and I wanted to get them. I wanted to at least get the first season of one show the beginning of the year, and that wasn't going to happen. So
Right.
it was just no way. So now I've been playing catch up and I've just kind of been getting my life back together because I'm kind of feeling normal again. Last week I told everybody that my Christmas tree was still up. Guess what, you guys? My Christmas tree still up. Still there.
Ours is also still up, so we can be in team Christmas tree together. Like that's totally fine. Like we're carrying the Christmas spirit like just a little longer this year.
Right.
Because well, I
I'm
mean,
like,
honestly, part of it is because, like I said before, we kind of felt like we didn't have the normal holiday season that we would,
yeah.
which is why I'm never releasing another Christmas book like
It's
anywhere. If I write one, and I don't know why I would after this, but like if I did, it's getting released in like July because I'm not having something disrupting my holiday again. That was that,
that's a
that
good
was no
idea.
fun. But then also, like finally, if you look outside here, it actually looks like Christmas.
Yeah.
We got like a foot of snow dumped on us over the course of the past week, and the temperatures are dipping down below zero. So it's nice to have like a fire going in the fireplace whenever possible. And it's kind of that winter cozy aesthetic here finally
Yeah.
that you would want for Christmas. So
It could be Christmas whenever you want. It's like, you're like, I'm an adult, right? I can eat ice cream for breakfast.
you
Like,
can.
nobody's telling me I can't. You can have Christmas all year if you want it, I guess. I mean, it's up to you,
Right? I
you know,
carry Christmas in my heart all year long.
all year. Mine's just been now that I am back to normal, I have seriously, seriously overbooked myself and I've been doing
Oh
everything
no.
else. But the basics pretty much. So that's okay. It's my own fault, but I'm doing it kind of to get it out of the way. That way I can then stop and have a break and be able to do other things or maybe just enjoy myself would be
That
that
would
would
be nice.
that'd be something.
Yeah.
um so yeah, the last week or so I've just been recording. I mean, I'm booked every single day until mid-February right now. I have stopped booking guests for the show that I'm recording because I didn't expect it to pop off the way it did.
Mm.
I really didn't. So one of the new shows coming is just people coming on and sharing their stories of high strangeness and the paranormal and whatever. And I kind of expected, getting people's experiences in general, um, can be hard. I mean, sometimes, I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
you'll go months without getting a new encounter. So especially when you want to have people come on a podcast and share it with the world, I just assumed it would be a lot harder. Turns out it's not. So there's been a lot of people that have reached out and they're like, yeah, yeah, I can share my story. And I'm like, okay, great. Let's get you booked. And then by the time I look down at my calendar, I'm like, uh-oh, why did I do this to myself? Not that I won't do it. I'll do it. And it's moments like that I have to remind, because I mean, people are like, they think I have the coolest job in the world. It is cool, but it is still a job. And so when I'm feeling overwhelmed or overbooked or I'm overdoing it, even if I am genuinely overdoing it, I like to stop and remind myself that I like this, right? Like I enjoy talking about this stuff with people.
Sure.
Um, so I have to kind of reel it in and remember why I do it, to begin with. But either way, um, I know things that you guys don't know yet because that's all I've been doing and super exciting stuff. There's some really interesting encounters that we've got coming up. The other two shows have been going really well. All the new co-hosts are doing a really awesome job. So I'm just super excited to get them out to everybody. So there's that. And then now that I am, like I said, back to kind of normal, I'm working on my Frogman presentation, which is going to be about frog humanoids from around the world. So you don't want to miss that. If you want to check that out, come to the Frogman Festival March 2nd in Loveland, Ohio, I think at the Oasis Convention Center. I'll have to check on
is it
that.
in a new place
It is
this
a new
year?
place. It is a
Okay.
new place this year. Which, I don't know if that will help or hurt. It just depends. The place that it was at last year, it was Great Wolf Lodge. Is
Yeah.
Great Wolf Lodge everywhere? Is it all over the country? Do you know?
I think so. I think there's one in like the Wisconsin Dells up here.
Yeah, it's like a resort
Yeah.
and it's very busy as it is. And, so it's, we don't know if it was so busy because of um, because of the Frogman Festival itself or because it was at a resort.
Well, there was that cryptid trading card game
Yeah.
tournament,
Yeah, that
which
was happening also.
I I know for a fact that there are a lot of people that stopped by like my table and bought my books who were there for the trading card tournament,
Yeah,
which I felt like that worked out really, really well. I don't know how many of the attendees were super serious about cryptids or the paranormal or anything,
right.
but I don't really care because they bought a shit ton of books,
Yeah.
so that's cool. Like they care enough to buy my books, which is that that's enough, really, right?
Yeah.
Um, so,
Well,
but yeah, I thought that worked out well.
we had a couple times where people would stop by and be like, "Do people really believe in this?" Which doing like conventions and stuff, you get people that do that, right? I mean,
Oh
that
yeah,
that's not unusual, but I felt like there were more at Frogman Fest than
yeah.
anywhere.
Well, I mean, a lot of people treat cryptids and monsters and stuff like that. They treat it as another form of entertainment. It's not a subject that they take seriously. So you have fans of things like Mothman or Bigfoot or
Right.
Nessie or whatever, and they don't believe in them. Like they don't even believe in the possibility of them, but they like the characters. And so that's why you see this culture, I think that's very prevalent online from what I've seen, of people making cartoons out of these characters. Oh god, people just doing silly shit like shipping the characters with each other,
Yeah.
and so you have this kind of fictional universe that or narrative that people are applying to these otherwise serious or at least semi-serious phenomena, and I think that's who shows up to something like a cryptid trading card game
Yeah.
tournament are people who are just like, oh, Mothman's super cool, and that's why I have a T-shirt of a Mothman with hearts for eyes, and he's kissing Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Like I think that's super neat. But like to somebody like us, it's like, oh, well, that's fucking nonsense. All right, we are not on the same page here.
Mothman's not even
You know,
attracted to Bigfoot, you guys. God. Let's
right? Oh, wait, who knows? Yeah. So, but and that's something we run into in this field a lot.
Yeah.
Are
Right.
people who are only interested in it from an entertainment
Yeah.
perspective, and it's difficult because that allows a lot of stuff that's just fucking nonsense to persist, and and it makes me mad. But then if you get upset about it and you're like, well, this is fake, then people start accusing you of not being fun
Right.
because it's like you're ruining their fun. But it's like, dude, we're not talking about Star Wars. I'm not going on a rant about the sequel trilogy or something where sure, like that's if you like it, that's fine. That's a valid opinion. And not everybody has to like or dislike all the same things as me.
Right.
When you are supporting obvious bullshit because you don't care if it's true or not, when there are actual people who have had things happen to them that have deeply impacted their lives, that's a different fucking situation.
It
So
is. Yeah.
it can be a little frustrating, and I don't like the amount of entertaining that people try to do. I don't like the pro wrestler approach that so many people have, like professionals, quote unquote professionals in this field have to these phenomena, where they kind of are willing to say whatever fake shit they think will get attention, and they kind of wink and smirk about it and stuff, and they're like, but they'll never admit that what they're doing is total bullshit, because they got to stay in character all the time. And it's like pro wrestling, but again, in pro wrestling, everybody's on the same page. Like, there's no ethical issue there. But when you're talking about something like cryptozoology or the paranormal, there is an ethical issue, because there are real people who are really affected by whatever this stuff is. And so, when you've got people who treat it like a joke or just want to be entertained, it's not helpful.
Right. You can have, well, my personal opinion is that you can have the fun,
Mm,
but at the end of the day, you still need to be able to decipher what's the fun and what's the truth, or as close to the truth as we can possibly get. And I had actually two instances that kind of rocked me a little bit this week. So one of them was that, okay, so last week's episode was Xana, the alleged ape woman.
yeah, that's a sad
And
story.
right, and the way that I had advertised it was deliberate on my part. I advertised it as Xana the ape woman.
Mm,
And it's because the conclusion there, the truth of it is that Xana was not a related to Bigfoot. She was not some type of,
no,
animal. She was very much a woman,
yeah,
and very much, and she was a black woman victimized, you know,
yeah,
and that's the truth of it. But I advertised it as Xana the ape woman because majority of this community, guess what, is here for the fun. And I
right,
want them to come and listen, and I want them to come and learn something. So if I get on there and go, "Hey guys, I got this new episode out and it's about Xana, this slave woman," they don't care about that. They want Bigfoot.
right,
But they're going to continue to push the story of this being legitimate Bigfoot evidence, unless they learn otherwise. So yeah, I'm going to trick you a little bit and have you come and learn something.
sure.
And people were getting mad at me. They were like, "Well, it's super racist that you did that." I'm like, "Did you listen to the episode? Because you didn't. I know you didn't."
Well, I
Uh,
saw too that when you had put out the image for that
right.
you were sharing on social media, like Ape Woman was in quotes,
It was.
and I think that acknowledges that she was not that,
Right.
and acknowledges that is a racist sort of term that you would apply to somebody, of her background,
Mhm.
while also letting people know that you're not calling her a fucking ape woman.
Right.
You are telling your audience ahead of time what other people called her.
Right.
Like you're
Right.
you're providing some context, like immediate context, so people kind of know what you're talking about.
Right.
So yeah, I think people are very sensitive about stuff like that, and understandably so. But I
Yes.
didn't view your presentation, in terms of social media advertising or anything else, as being overtly racist. I think that there were some people who just probably had their hearts in the right place, and are just very sensitive about those kinds of issues.
No,
So,
I agree with that wholeheartedly. I think that, listen, the reason why I agree with it is because one of the things that we talked about was the issue of the ethics behind cryptozoology, and somebody who was degreed, who did the original DNA study on Xana, and even though it all said that she was an African woman,
oh,
still
100%.
claimed that she was a Bigfoot.
Jeez.
And, that's an issue, and that is something that happens a lot. They'll just cherry pick scientific fact and just take what they want and leave the rest behind, and science doesn't work that way. That's why it's science. And so I understand, people that see this topic come up time and time again, they already expect, that's the sad part, they already expect right out the gate that I am just another person, a part of this community, and I am saying that this was an ape woman, this was a Bigfoot.
Right.
um and I'm not, and I get that that's just lack of, they don't know who I am. Right, I get that.
Sure.
But then a couple days later, I end up doing a podcast. I go on the Three Beards podcast, and Craig, the host of the podcast, he's a great guy. Craig is very skeptical. He's very much like, I want to believe in these things. I just need evidence that they exist. One of his co-hosts is not at all. As a matter of fact, he has a lot of alleged experiences that have happened. And, when I go on the show, and I go on as a guest, which means that they're supposed to be asking me about stuff, right? And wanting my opinion and things,
Sure.
I think. But then, like, the one host starts talking about, oh, well, the government covers these things up and they know about cryptids and this, that, and the other. And I'm like, no, that's not happening. And here's why this isn't happening. I'll tell you why. And it's because my sources say that doesn't happen. And he just doesn't really, his argument is not to argue, it's to just talk over you and keep talking
Mhm.
and not stop talking until you are exhausted from having the conversation and don't even want to have it anymore. And that's not a good argument.
No, it's not. That is the exact opposite, in fact, and that's, I mean, that's part of what I was kind of getting at, and I do agree with you that these topics can be entertaining, and I don't want people to think as though I think that everything has to be very serious and not fun at all. I think that you can present facts in a way that are entertaining, and it's important because you're right. Otherwise, nobody's going to pay any attention to you, and the bullshit artists win. But I think that that's a good example what you're presenting of somebody who is all too typical in this field where you get people who I mean, there are so many examples of this, but there one comes to mind specifically where there is a particular show that people really really enjoy, but it's not credible in any sense. And so if you doubt this show, or if you bring up any, like, if you even approach critical thinking when discussing in any of the topics of it, not only will the rabid fan base like come at you, but the people behind it and their huge social media followings will start retweeting you and
Yep.
bullying you into just shutting up, because applying any kind of critical thinking is detrimental to their bottom line, because the reality is if you think too much about what they're saying, you'll realize that it's fucking bullshit, you know.
Yeah. Yep.
And that happens way too often, and it's part of the entertainment side of this, where
Yeah.
peer review is not important, critical thinking is not fucking important. In fact, it's a detriment. um, there's no process keeping people uh, uh, in line. Like, there's nothing that makes people culpable or responsible for anything that they fucking put out there. You can put out anything you want, and as long as you're some pro wrestling level showman, you will attract fucking followers, and they'll
Yep.
believe you.
Yep.
And
Without
and it's
anything.
just nonsense.
Yeah, and that's pretty much, like I said, the actual host himself, great guy. He is happy to challenge the other host that's on there.
Mm,
But the problem is that, like, again, you can't, because this guy's been doing it for so long. His go-to is, like I said, he's going to overtalk you, and he's not going to focus on like one point at a time. He's going to jump points to where do you start? Where's your rebuttal start? Because this guy's now talked about five things in his 10-minute long spiel.
wow.
There's no point of even trying, at that point. And so, and I had to keep reminding people listening to it's a live show. And I'm like, well, great. Who knows what the audience is going to do? Because then you have to think about that too. Am I walking into a situation where all these people believe him with everything in them, believe his stories, even though I have evidence to the contrary? Are they actually going to listen, or they're going to, team up with the person that they know and trust?
Right.
People were very, different people had different opinions. Nobody was like, wow, this Ashley chick is terrible or anything like that. But I had to keep reminding people, look, I'm not trying to be an asshole. I'm not trying to say that the stuff that happened to this guy didn't happen. I'm just saying that the very first point he brings up is that like cryptids are some type of government cover up, and they close parks and stuff to, to hide them. And it doesn't make any sense. When I literally fucking speak to people that work at the NASIC building at Wright Patterson Air Force Base, and they're all like, yeah, we don't know anything about cryptids. That's just not,
Right.
we don't care.
Well, that's the other part of this too, and it's something that the entertainer types lean on heavily. Um, but fundamentally, like, it's an unreasonable position to take to expect someone to believe in something without evidence.
Yeah.
Like, people just need to make their fucking peace with that,
Yeah.
because I can't tell you how many times I have encountered people in this field where, if you don't immediately just take them at their word and believe wholeheartedly in whatever they're saying, you instantly become the enemy. And
Right.
that's fucking horseshit. If I
Right.
tell somebody a story, if I give them a report that I've investigated, and they go, you know what, this isn't enough for me. I don't believe in this. I don't believe in this phenomenon. I go, you know what? That's fair. I try not to believe in things because, quite frankly, believing is not a useful fucking thing to do in this field. Like, you should try to be unbiased. You should try not to have strong beliefs because we don't know anything about any of this. And so, if somebody says, like, they look at my work and they're like, okay, well, yeah, like, this isn't enough for me to actually believe that there's something truly compelling here. All I can do, the only reasonable thing I can do, the only thing I can do as an actual mature adult and professional in this field is go, you know what? That's fair. If I had enough evidence for this to be inarguable, then it would be taught in fucking universities.
Exactly.
Obviously, I don't.
Exactly. You'd be living, you'd have a house there and where you live now, and a house in Madison, and
Right. Yeah.
at minimum,
Absolutely.
um, exactly. And, people they just get so sensitive to these topics. They let their emotions speak for them and throw out all logic out the window. And that's not helping us any. And that's not helping the community. And that's not helping people believe your stories. You're not getting any closer to having people believe that something happened to you. That's not helping the people that actually experience this stuff and have to live with it every day. And
Right.
and I mean, that was overall, I mean, at the end of the day, that's, I was very diplomatic about it because I'm a professional. And I was like, look, I don't remember his name, guy, I don't know your whole story. I'm not going to get it here in 10 minutes, just like you're not going to get mine in 10 minutes. Like, so I'm not going to tell you that you're wrong. I'm like, but at the end of the day, we need to at least be able to have these conversations together
Right.
and have you listen to me and me listen to you. Like, there's got to be some back and forth. You can't just overtalk people and think that that's how it works. It
Oh,
doesn't.
yeah. No, that is 100% accurate. I can't tell you how many people that I work with closely, and we don't agree on things, but that doesn't matter. Like, I
Yeah.
don't have to agree with someone's hypothesis, on what might be behind a phenomenon or something, or whatever. I don't have to agree with them to work with them. I don't have to agree with them to respect them as a person, to treat them with respect. All we have to do is be civil and be capable of having, civil, respectful conversations and respectful debate, and that's it. Like, that's, as long as you can do that, you don't have to agree. Not everybody's always going to agree, and that's okay. That's the other thing. We don't need to
Yeah.
have some weird fucking hive mind where everybody just toes some party line, like, how boring is that shit? And it also doesn't get us any further towards the truth if that's what you're
Right.
interested in.
Yeah.
We need to be able to have healthy conversations. You are absolutely right.
Well, and then you got the people that are like, well, it's not about telling the truth. It's about telling the stories. And I'm like, great, that's
Well,
you. That's your goal. That's not my goal. My
right.
job is to further this. that, that's the job that I signed up for. So that's what I'm going to do. So when I ask the hard questions, I'm just doing the job that I signed up for because I have my goal and you have your goal. And we can both be there's enough there's enough room for both of us.
Right.
So I don't know. I'll get off my soapbox. But I did that this week. Go check out the Three Beards podcast episode that I did. I'm more than happy to go back on. I had a great conversation with Craig on the, just sidebarring. He gives people a place to be able to be who they are, no matter what it is that you believe in. And I think that that is extremely, extremely important. I think that everybody deserves a spot here, even if I don't agree with what you're saying. So
Sure.
that's it. And then I also, in between all my recording and all that fun stuff, I did manage to binge watch something. On accident. So I watched the whole Natalia Speaks series. Have you heard of this
I
Natalia Gray
saw it.
series?
I haven't watched it yet. That's something that like Emily and I were kind of kicking around whether or not we should watch it. So I know what you're talking about. I haven't seen it
Yeah,
yet though.
it's insane. Um, Definitely check it out. I'd love to do a show on it sometime. Just
Okay,
because
I'll watch it and then we could totally do a show on it.
yeah, I think it fits. I mean, just the gist of it. This orphan girl with disabilities from Ukraine was adopted by a family, and they believe that she was not actually a 6-year-old girl when they got her, but in her 20s, and was able to then actually go to the courts and get her age changed for her to reflect as an adult. And so the hot topic debate that's been for a long time, and I won't spoil anything for you, has been whether or not Natalia was really lying about her age. Was she really a Ukrainian adult that was just running a scam in order to get into America? Or, was she dangerous? It's really, really interesting, really impactful. I think that it's a docu series on it right now. There's 2 seasons. Just like any docu series, of course, it's not perfect, but I find it interesting because the entire first season is told from the perspective of the family, and then the entire second season is told from the perspective of Natalia. So, I think that is probably the best way that you could handle a topic like this. So it's
Yeah,
pretty good. Check
that
it
sounds
out.
really interesting. I mean, that's literally the plot of an actual horror movie
It
too. So
is. It is. That was released around the time that this controversy was happening. So,
right,
the orphan, and that's what people kind of dubbed this case, the orphan case.
right.
So super neat. Like I said, I think it'd be fun to talk about on the show sometime. So
Oh,
let me know
totally.
if you get through it, and we'll cover it.
I love stuff like that, and Emily and I both love weird documentaries and things. I'm not talking about like, paranormal reality television or anything like that, like actual documentaries about weird stuff. And so we try to find like cult documentaries are our
Yeah.
absolute favorite. And so we watched a couple on Twin Flames Universe recently, which is,
Oh, geez.
boy, is that a wild ride. And we watched one on Mother God, which was
Oh yeah.
another very, very interesting cult documentary. And then I got to pick, and so I had us watch another one on like the U.S. Army's experiments on troops with like LSD and different like chemical agents and stuff,
Oh,
and that got dark real fast.
oh yeah.
But if you haven't seen the Twin Flames Universe documentary, there's 2 of them out actually. If you haven't seen those, it is a whole fucking thing that I had been seeing this idea. I don't know if you're familiar with
I've
twin
never heard of
flames.
it. No.
Okay, so like twin flames, it's something that's been talked about in new age circles for
Oh, I mean, I know
God.
what twin flames are.
Oh,
I've
okay,
never heard of the documentary.
great.
Like,
So
explain
so
twin flames because people might not know.
okay, so yeah, like the idea behind twin flames is that everybody has this perfect match, right? This perfect romantic match, this twin flame, and that your relationship with them, regardless of how like rocky it is or what might happen, is meant to be. And what it ends up being in practice, in real life, is an excuse for toxic, abusive
Right.
relationships that
Yep.
are just fucking train wrecks. Um, and so these 2 con artists decided that they were going to form this organization called Twin Flames Universe. So it's kind of like a dating site for morons who are, you know what? That's not fair. A lot of the people who fell for this were not dumb. You don't have to be stupid to join a cult. You just have to be vulnerable. So I retract that. But regardless, it's a dating site for very vulnerable people
Sure.
who, might be uh, uh, in danger of joining a cult, and so they prey on people's vulnerabilities, and it gets real. Again, it gets pretty dark pretty quickly, and they take a lot of people's money, and they get them to do even worse stuff. So definitely check it out. It is a whole thing, but it's also one of those things where I'm like, guys, this is why we need to encourage critical thinking,
Yeah.
because the overlap between new age bullshit and the paranormal, I mean, that Venn diagram is practically a circle.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we have to be able to discern the difference between an interesting idea and the kind of total nonsense that sounds good on the surface, but can lead to a bad place very quickly. And the idea of twin flames is definitely the latter. So yeah, I encourage people to definitely check out both of the documentaries. I don't remember what they're called individually, but if you look for Twin Flames universe documentaries,
You'll find it.
you will definitely find them. Yeah.
I
And then
like
like
stuff on
the
cults.
Mother God one is just your classic hippie nonsense kind of cult, which again gets pretty dark, but that's why we like them, right?
Yeah, that's I mean, I've never watched anything on it, but I've read about it, and that's a crazy one.
Hmm.
Um, and if you still haven't gotten your fix yet on cults and weird crime or anything like that, check out Reckless Ben on YouTube. Reckless Ben infiltrated the Yellow Deli cult and recorded pretty much all of it. Super interesting stuff. He also, Reckless Ben, has become more famous for covering a topic that I would really like to cover one day. He covered McCamey Manor. And have you heard of McCamey Manor?
Refresh my memory. It sounds familiar.
That's okay. McCamey Manor is allegedly an extreme haunted house that's been going on for years and years and years and years. Where if you make it through the haunted house, there's a $20,000 prize.
Yes. Okay. I know what you're talking about. Yep.
Yep. And so Ben and his friend Danny Burke, they both did the manor. And well, I mean, long story short, it turns out it's all bullshit, but it's that rabbit hole is so deep, and I want to. I was going to cover it for Halloween, it just didn't work out that way. I can't decide if I'm going to save it for next Halloween. Just I'll be honest with you, because that's when people are talking about McCamey Manor.
Sure.
So that's when it's popular, or if I'll do it some other time while it's fresh. But anyway, yeah, check out Reckless Ben and figure out, to jump into those. He also does, I think he infiltrated Scientology at one point. He does a lot of that kind of stuff. And I mean, honestly, it's kind of groundbreaking journalism. We don't have a lot of people that are willing to actually go inside of cults and, show you what it's like and what they're doing and kind of play the game a little bit. It's really neat. So check that out. Anyway, you want some news? You want to talk about some news?
I think that we need to do some news just to get away from the darkness of talking about these cults.
Okay, well, let's talk about death. So we had another person come back to life in India. This is
Weird.
I know, now that you're here, this is like becoming a thing. It's all your fault. So I'm gonna try, guys. I think it's Darshan Singh Brar is his name, an 80-year-old gentleman who is very sick. Went into the local ER. He was put on a ventilator for about 4 days before his heart stopped, and he was pronounced dead. While he was in the ambulance being transported back home to have his funeral, the ambulance hit a pothole, and his grandson had noticed after that event happened, that Brar's hand was moving. And so, well, they listened for a heartbeat, and guess what? He's alive. Potholes save lives, apparently, in India. And he's doing well. He's still alive.
Huh.
You
I
know,
mean, yeah. I'm glad he's alive.
Me
Like,
too. Yeah.
let's start with that. Like,
Yes.
good for him.
Good for
We're
him.
all happy he's alive. I think that he was always alive. I don't think he was dead at
The
any
whole time.
point.
Yeah.
I think that's what's going on here. And it's interesting. Again, we see we see these kinds of stories really coming out of specific places, and it sort of makes you question what the medical
Yeah.
infrastructure is like there. Like if these are really impoverished rural areas, and if they're suffering from their their medical personnel being overtaxed, they're too busy to do their due diligence. Like what exactly is happening here,
Mhm.
because we don't often get those kinds of stories here, do we?
We
Like
don't.
I
Yeah.
guess every once in a while, but they're just coming, left, right, and center out of like India and places
Specifically
like
India.
that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think that no, I think that this one did die. As opposed to like the last one, I would agree that something was off there. This guy, I think he actually, I think his heart stopped. And
Uh,
what we know in medical science is that just because your heart stops doesn't mean it's an instant death sentence.
right.
And I think it is very reasonable to think that the jolt of a pothole, and hitting a pothole in the road, could make his heart start beating again. I just, maybe they didn't really try. Maybe they had a DNR, that they weren't to resuscitate him if his heart stopped. And so therefore they didn't. And then, I don't know, life had different plans for this gentleman and decided, not yet. Um, I don't think that that is necessarily a medical anomaly. I think it's just something that happens.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think you make a very compelling point, and I think I would need more information. Of course, I think is what is necessary here for us to really know.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's what CPR is for, right? Like just
Exactly.
because your heart has stopped temporarily doesn't mean that you're dead for good. It doesn't even mean that you're actually dead.
Mhm.
There was a woman recently who was clinically dead for 24 minutes
Mhm.
who came back, and that kind of stuff is fascinating. Like if you are surrounded by qualified medical personnel, and you have a well documented case of being clinically dead for a certain amount of time, and then you come back, and especially if that comes with like a near death experience or something, like that shit is fascinating to me.
Yeah.
I love that kind of stuff.
That's what I'm curious about. Did he have a near death experience? I'm sure. I mean, he's got right now all the factors for it, right? He was
Yeah.
clinically dead, and then now he's not. So did something happen? I know somebody who's died 3 times and says that all 3 times nothing happened. And I don't know. That's more horrifying to me than anything else.
Yeah. that's that's not what you want to hear,
Right. It's just nothing. He was
right.
just dead, and then he was alive. He doesn't know.
Well, it's like there's almost like degrees of dead, though. You know what I mean? Where I know that sounds silly, but now I'm not a doctor, obviously, and I can't give qualified medical opinions. But from what I recall, in listening to actual doctors talk about this kind of thing, is you've got well, for instance, there's a difference between your heart having stopped and all brain activity having ceased.
There is,
Like that's a
yes.
huge difference. So if your
Mhm.
heart stopped, people would be like, "Oh, that person's dead." But there's a big difference between your heart having stopped and that kind of dead, and all brain activity having ceased and that
Yeah.
kind of dead. So it's like which kind of dead were you? Because if you lose consciousness, yeah, I mean people black out. Like that shit happens. People faint, whatever. And so being unconscious during like a cardiac episode or something, where you like you're dead-ish, but you're not like super dead. Um, like I could see. I know that sounds so stupid, but still,
Is
I
he, like,
could
dead
see.
dead, or is he, like he's,
Right?
like,
Is
for
he like
real?
dead-ish? We talking like seriously dead? But like if you're really just dead-ish, and you are unconscious as a result of that,
Mhm.
I think that okay, sure, I think it would be normal to just sort of black out and not remember anything, and that maybe the majority of the credible NDEs that we see come out of people who were just a little deader, maybe, you know?
So
Yeah.
here's one thing that I know. There are certain species of fish that you can take and put in water and then put that water in your freezer and freeze it alive. And when you unfreeze it, it will still be alive. And it's
Yeah.
not because that the fish live in a habitat like that, right? They're not like from Alaska, it's just because of the way that their body functions that it doesn't necessarily completely kill off all those functions. It's still
Mm,
functioning, or will resume functioning as normal once it's unfrozen. Um, you're right. Bodies do weird things. They just do weird things, and that's just sometimes that's what it is. It's like, well, I mean, your heart stopped, so like you were technically dead, but like we got you. You were here. We brought you back. It's not a
right.
big deal.
I yeah,
Yeah,
we need to talk to like a qualified neurologist or somebody who really studies brain activity because I want to say just from what I've read that it has more to do with the level of brain activity than anything else. And so
yeah,
I think there's a correlation there with things like near death experiences and such. And it's all very interesting. And there are people way fucking smarter than me with actual medical degrees who study this kind of stuff. And so I
right.
would take their word for it. Like you don't want to, even though I use really impressive like clinical terminology like deadish and seriously dead.
Well, that's
Um,
that degree in fucking English that you got
it
that's
is.
carrying
It
you. So
is paying for itself every day.
No, I agree with that. I mean, I've definitely looked into near death experiences. I've looked into, for a long time, I was really fascinated by what people experience before they die. And I don't mean like while they're actively dying in the hospital. I know, I think I've told this before on the show plenty of times, but like my grandma, before she died, had really interesting circumstances. She told one of my aunts that she was going to die, and she wasn't like sick. There was nothing wrong with her at the time. She
Mhm.
was at that time we thought in very good health. And then she saw weird things. Like she saw my aunt, who is alive and well, trying to get into the house, but my aunt wasn't there. She saw an alien.
Wow.
And this is like she's not, again, she's not in active death at that time, but this was like maybe a couple, maybe 3 months leading up to her death. And so it kind
Right.
of got me on a track of, well, you know what happens? I've heard this. I've heard that people, when they're going to die, kind of predict their own death. They know that they're going to die, and there's not an obvious reason for it. They just kind of know. And so I got into that for a while. Near death experiences are hit or miss, give or take. I've taken tons of reports of them, because I was interested when I had to face my own mortality when I almost died. I didn't almost die in the sense of like I was unconscious and I had an experience. Just I walked to the hospital. They were like, "We don't know how you're moving and walking and talking and in such a good mood." um, and psychologically, it messed with me after the fact. And so in looking into kind of how to cope with that, of course, came across a bunch of near death experiences. And man, your mileage may vary on that. If you're a Christian person, like, and you've done some questionable things in your life, and subconsciously you know it, like you're going to see the flames of hell. If you're maybe on the fence of Christianity and you've been, kind of a decent person, like you're gonna see Jesus. Like it really just depends on your different cultures, your perspectives, how you've grown up, how you've lived your whole life. And so I still don't think we really have any answers, but I'm still not going to sit and tell somebody who's had that kind of experience you're wrong
Sure.
either.
Of course.
Because the fact of the matter is that we die and then we don't come back and tell about it. We just die. So I don't know. Another topic for another day for sure.
Right.
Um, just to kind of switch gears a little bit here, I'm going to talk about these mystery notes popping up all over Pennsylvania. Have you heard about this?
Missed no, I've been immersed in jellyfish UFOs and things recently. I missed the mystery notes.
I was going to let you bring up the jellyfish UFO, so we'll get to that next. So the mystery notes in Pennsylvania, I love this. I guess I don't love it. That's kind of wrong to say because we don't really know what's going on. So back in late December, this all kind of started because a gentleman went to sit down and have some nice Lucky Charms for breakfast, right? Brand new box of Lucky Charms. And he opens the box, opens the sealed bag, pours out his Lucky Charms, and there's a prize in the box. Except the prize is a strange message typed up on a little, maybe a little card sized paper. And it's weird. I mean, most of it is, it's just gibberish. I mean, I say gibberish, but it kind of makes sense. It's stuff like, oh, JFK knew, and, there's these weird cryptic kind of messages. And it was very concerning, obviously. Well, first of all, it's concerning because his cereal was tampered with, clearly. And then, of course, the note itself was strange. So he turns it into the police, and the local news starts reporting on it. And then these notes explode. All of a sudden, all these people are reporting all of these different notes that they have found in various products, tons of products. And I mean, and it's not necessarily that they are coming from the same manufacturing plant. They've been trying to see patterns. They're not really seeing any patterns. Police are investigating it. Couple of other places it's been found sealed boxes of eye drops, a sealed inside of a sealed lint chocolate bar. Um, and then there was one that showed up at a local park that was like tied to a tree. But it's all the same notes. And, some people speculate that it is some type of cipher. It clearly means something. But there's no real leads right now as to where these notes are coming from.
Huh. So I'm actually I'm looking at the note itself
Yeah.
right now.
Hmm.
And yeah, I mean like it's bananas.
I was going to
It's
read
all
it, but it's long. So
it's well and it's one of those things where it's difficult to read, like your brain just wants to reject it cuz it's written in like some kind of code or something, you know. Um but yeah, it starts out with like riots slash chaos slash terror tied to secret society. JFK warned of secret society. Yeah. And
yeah.
it only gets weirder from there. You know, it starts talking about like a sign or symbol, like word that unites secret society that's tied to Saturn. Lord of the Rings gets called out for some reason.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what that's about. I mean, again, I'm not a qualified mental health professional. So take my opinion with a big old grain of salt. But it reads like something a schizophrenic person would write. You know
Right.
what
It
I
makes
mean?
sense,
Like,
but it doesn't make sense.
yeah.
You
It
know,
makes sense if you are imbalanced.
imbalanced. That's a very nice way to put it. Um,
Right.
the concern here is that, it's not like whoever it is that's producing these notes are going out to the grocery store and then they are just slipping these notes in wherever they can. Again, this was the very first one was inside of the sealed bag of Lucky Charms. So, I mean, you would think then it's got to be somebody that works in the Lucky Charms factory, or
Right.
whatever. And then because they have found them in such a variety, now some people have gotten the notes and threw them away. So they don't, it's like secondhand information of like, yeah, I got one of these notes. I just threw it away. you
I
know,
would not eat that cereal, you
no,
know?
no.
Like,
And the guy did say that he did not eat it after that. Um,
right.
but like I said, there's no tie. Are the Lucky Charms being produced at the same place that the eye drops are being produced? Which can happen sometimes. But they're not really finding that. So now what they're working on is trying to decipher the message, what it could possibly mean, and then of course, where is it coming from? What level do we need to be concerned about where this is coming from? And it's an ongoing investigation. There'll probably be more notes that pop up
Mhm.
if we're lucky. It kind of reminds me though of the Toynbee tiles,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
because those were weird and cryptic like that. They also mentioned Saturn, um, but there was nothing nefarious behind that at all. It was just some guy doing it.
I mean, literally, this could be the exact same thing. It doesn't have to be like a mentally ill person. It could literally just be somebody
Somebody
who is
doing it.
doing it as a prank, and who knows what level of the manufacturing process they're at or how they're managing to get in there. I mean,
Right.
for all we know, they could be like an inspector who goes to all of these different processing like facilities, and so they have access to a ton of different brands, and so
Mhm.
they can easily slip stuff into various different like brands and stuff. Because you're right, it's everything from like cereal to chocolate bars to like eye drops and stuff. Like they're not related, they're not manufactured by the same companies, so it's got to be somebody with access to different manufacturing facilities, or somebody who knows enough about packaging to be able to open something and reseal it without it
Correct.
seeming to have ever been opened.
That's correct.
So
And
who
they could be
knows?
purchasing these items, taking them home, and then returning them. I mean, that's not, you
Oh yeah.
know, I mean, in order to do so. So, yeah, who knows? I'm gonna keep watching this because I think it's interesting, and I'm excited for it. Not excited, but I it's exciting to watch it unfold in
It's
real.
okay to be excited. Like it's not hurting anybody yet. So like we can
Okay,
have
fair
some
enough.
fun with it.
And I'm excited for it. Um, I hope it continues to unravel, and I hope it gets more mysterious before it gets solved. So
Sure.
we'll see if I
Absolutely.
get an update on it. I'll let you guys know. But I'll go ahead and pass it over to you. I know you got some news.
Oh boy, everybody got some news. Jellyfish UFOs,
Yep.
or UFO rather. UFO advocate and documentarian Jeremy Corbell, along with journalist George Knapp. Now, those are two names that anybody interested in ufology should be intimately familiar with at this
Mhm.
point. Got together and released a video recently to Corbell's YouTube channel that they claim features an unidentified flying object that was filmed over a United States joint operations base in Iraq. Now, due to the object's appearance, and it does look weird, you can watch this video. It's freely available in probably like a million places online right now. It's been designated the jellyfish UFO, or if you're an elitist, the jellyfish UAP. Um, sorry, I just UAP. It does nothing for me. Like unidentified aerial phenomena. I get it. I even agree that it's more accurate. I just don't like it. I'm an old school UFO guy, right? Anyway, so they released this video through Corbell's YouTube channel, and of course it features all of the stuff we've come to expect in terms of secret sources and military involvement and everything, and that's fine. Like you and I both know what it's like to work with witnesses who don't want their names put out there. They don't want their identities known. They feel like they have something to lose. They probably do have something to lose, and so like that doesn't really bother me at all. But they include this event description and everything, and according to that, so I'll just read it verbatim. It's not very
Sure.
long. Uh, an incursion by an object of unknown origin was filmed at a United States Joint Operations Base in Iraq. The object was designated UAP and was tracked for a durational period. The object moved through a sensitive military installation and eventually traversed over a body of water where it actuated a controlled descent, submerging into the water. After an observational period of about 17 minutes, the UAP reemerged from the body of water and shot off at an extreme rate of speed, beyond the optical scope of the observation platform. The origin, intent, and capability of the anomalous aerial vehicle remains unknown. Official designation remains UAP. Now, there are some interesting things that we should note here. The first one is that uh, this thing is being described as having trans medium capability. So, for anybody who doesn't know what that means, literally, it's just moving from one medium to another. So, from water into the air, or from the air into the water, right? But we only get like a minute and a half at most of footage of this thing. And at no point in the footage that's been shared does it actually demonstrate those capabilities. Like we never get to see it go into the water or come out of the water
Right.
or anything like that. So why? Why do we only have a minute and a half of this fucking video? Like, give us the 17 minutes, you know? Like, it's not like it's I've got 17 minutes, you know, like
Right.
I have that kind of time. Like, it's fine. I'll watch the whole thing. Yeah. I mean, you don't have to trim it down. Like,
Right, if it's
Jesus.
doing all that, I mean, I want
Right,
to
right.
know.
But also, what's interesting is they placed the time and date of this recording as being October of 2018, and now that's not necessarily correct. So after this video was released, journalist Stephen Greenstreet said that he was able to speak with an actual military witness to this specific incident. And so he talks to this guy who did go on the actual record. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but it looks like Michael Sinkowski. I'm going to say Sinkowski.
Sure, that sounds
Yeah,
right.
that's good, solid Polish name, right? He's trustworthy. And he said that he was actually stationed at that base, and he was familiar with the footage. And what's interesting about his testimony is that he doesn't deny it at all, and he's not able to explain it really. He thought that maybe it was something on the actual lens, but when he floated that theory to the people who actually were in charge of taking care of this camera. So it's basically this camera that is affixed to a balloon, and it's used to like spot enemy drones and stuff. And so when that was brought up to them, they were like, well, there's no way there was anything on the lens of this camera, because literally their job is maintaining it, and so it gets cleaned regularly. And the idea that there would just be this like weird splotch on it was
Yeah.
not something that they were necessarily willing to entertain, which I totally get. Like, it's their job to maintain this thing. They clean it all the time. That makes it less likely that it's something like that. Um, and then, the other thing was, maybe he thought it could be a cluster of balloons, but it doesn't necessarily move like balloons. It doesn't display the kinds of qualities that you might expect for something like that, just in terms of the speed and direction and everything else in which it's moving. Like I should say, rather than direction, the fluidity that it's moving with. It's not kind of like bobbing up and down in the wind or anything. Like, this thing is just kind of smoothly flying across the landscape. So it's weird. And he admits that he doesn't necessarily know what it is. So at this point, I think it's fair to classify it as an unidentified flying object. But he goes on to say that nobody ever observed this thing displaying any kind of transmedium capability. So nobody actually saw it going into the water or coming out of the water or anything like that. And in fact, this video was popular enough on the base where it was put in their like it was filed in some secret area in this base where it wasn't for public consumption, but apparently they would still have access to it. And so when like new personnel would come on base, they'd be like, "Hey, you want to see this crazy fucking video?" And they would show it to people. And so it was like secret, but not that secret, I guess. I don't know how the army works, but anyway, so it's something that people have seen, like, and it has been shown to people. So I wouldn't be surprised if there were more people who came forward and said, "Oh yeah, I've seen that video." But it has that classic mixture of truth and bullshit that you see in
Yeah.
so many interesting UFO cases, where it's like, why add the transmedium stuff? Like, was that fed to them by somebody who was claiming to have witnessed it? Was that something that they've added because transmedium capability is like the new hotness in UFOs right now, where like everything's got to be coming out of the ocean or going into the ocean, and fucking ocean bases and shit. um I just it's why, like, I'm just interested in how that got added to the actual narrative. But I encourage everybody to check out this video if you haven't seen it yet. because it's weird as shit. And I don't know if it's like an alien in a jetpack or a fucking Imperial probe droid or what, but it looks weird.
Yeah, of course, I jumped all over this as soon as it became available. As soon as I saw Jellyfish UFO, I was fucking sign me up. You know, I did a fantastic show over on Wild Weird Radio about atmospheric beasts. And I love this topic. I love it. I love jellyfish in the sky. I love weird living, and so that's the difference here. I'm going to say that is that typically when you're talking about a jellyfish type of UFO, usually they seem to be like alive,
Mm,
and whatever this is not alive. You know what I mean? Just the way
sure.
it
It's not
looks.
like moving its limbs or anything. Yeah.
Right. Like the whole entire entity, it doesn't seem like an entity. It seems like something. I mean, it could be crafts. Could, like you said, could be jetpack. That's been popular in the last couple of years, right?
Yeah.
Um, it could be something that could be a cluster of balloons, you know. Well, the cluster of balloons, it's the information is just not really readily available that we need. I mean, I've seen people claim like, well, here's why it can't be balloons. Because when I saw it, that
Right.
was my first thought. It's balloons, right? Um, because that's what it looks like. It looks like balloons with strings. And it's not really, it's very stiff and it's not really doing anything. And, but the people are like, well, it can't be balloons because it was moving in the opposite direction of the wind. And even if it was moving in the same direction of the wind, it was moving at a different speed than the wind was moving. Okay, whatever,
Mm,
fine. But I have not really been able to verify that information. Not that I have really tried too hard, to be honest with you. Because I do feel like there is, I mean, we know there's missing footage of this thing. Well, what is that? Why can't we see it? You know? Why go
yeah.
why come forward with it and be like, "Hey, we have this cool new video," and then only show us the snippet of it? That doesn't make any sense, you know? Um, I don't know. I don't know what this is. I'm still sticking with balloon, but it's not as sexy and exciting as I thought that it was going to be.
Right. Well, there are layers of weirdness to this where you're right. Like, what is on the remaining, 15 minutes of this video, and is the reason we're not being shown it that it would invalidate it as an actual UFO? Like,
Right.
does it show it being a totally normal object? Whether that be balloons or whatever. Um, but at the same time, you've got this guy coming forward, going on the actual record, putting himself out there, who has been verified to actually have the service record that he's claiming,
Mhm.
and was stationed at this base. Who's saying, "Oh, no, no, no! Like, believe me, like the first thing that we looked into was whether or not it was something like balloons, and that just didn't add up."
Right.
So that's weird. Like I wasn't there, and so if somebody who was there was saying like, okay, like we looked into it and I don't think it could be balloons because of this reason. Because look, I investigate a lot of UFOs and so many of them are fucking balloons. So many, right?
Yeah.
Like just so goddamn many. And so like I that is an explanation I have used many, many times and it's been accurate many, many times.
Right.
Um, but and it could be accurate here. I don't know. I mean, that could be 100% what it actually is. It's just interesting to me that you've got the testimony of this guy saying, addressing that specifically and being like, I don't think so, based on being there and everything that I saw when this happened.
Yeah.
And that makes it interesting to me. So who knows? I'd like to see the rest of the video.
Right, and I agree with all that. Just on your first viewing, I guess more the point I was trying to make is that if you have not seen this video so far and you are excited about the term jellyfish UFO, don't get too excited.
Yeah, it's not going to be like the creature from like Nope or anything.
Right. Don't get too excited. Just on first viewing, it looks like a cluster of balloons, but yes, there's so many unanswered questions to it still, that I feel like we need that other 15 minutes footage.
Oh,
So
totally,
I hope
100%.
I hope we get it. I'm just sick of that. I'm sick of these half-assed half answers. Well, we have more. Okay, then show us.
Yeah. Right.
It's
Well, that's the thing. Like people will ask me about, everything that's been going on with the government and
Mhm.
UFOs since 2017. And I mean, it's just hard to get fucking excited about it anymore. Like,
Right.
I'm interested in the actual people that I work with who have real experiences, whatever they might represent, and working with them because at this point, like, this government shit has taken over the entire field of ufology, more or
Oh,
less.
geez, I know.
And I mean, it feels like a dead end. It just feels like we're spinning our tires endlessly,
Mhm.
and a whole fucking industry has arisen around it. And there are people definitely making good money off of it. And so I don't know, like maybe there's something there, maybe there isn't, but I don't fucking care at all until I get something compelling when there are actual real people that I can really interact with and talk to about their experiences that are a thousand times more compelling than what has been so like slowly trickling out through these quote unquote like government insiders and the mainstream media since 2017. I mean, I don't know how excited I'm supposed to be at this point.
Well, right, and, people I mean, people ask you, what do you think about the UAP stuff?" Well, listen, I know as much as you know, you know?
Yeah, right.
Let's we all know the same information. I guess I could tell you what my opinion is, but it doesn't hold any more weight or water than anybody else's at this point, you know? It's just, well, this is what they said, and I guess we're just still supposed to wait for it,
It's any moment now. Like any moment now, disclosure. It's
Oh,
happening. It's
geez.
coming. It's sneaking up on you.
It's it'll be here
Oh yeah.
before you know.
It'll be like when you're a kid and you wake up and it's just like snow fell and you're so excited. You're like, "Oh, is it a snow day today? Only it's going to be me and I'm going to wake up one day and it's going to be disclosure." And I'm like, "Oh, finally it's disclosure day. Yay,
Except
I'm going to
snow
stay in
fell,
pajamas."
and there's clearly a foot out there, and they still don't close school, so that's
Oh god.
disclosure.
Yeah, right.
The disappointment. Um, it's edging, but without actually getting off.
Oh no.
It's not a good time.
No, that's the worst.
I think I've used that analogy before on this show, actually, as that to me, the UAP disclosure is just edging. That's
Oh,
it.
it is. No, you're that's I think that's the most apt analogy I've ever heard to describe it.
We can
Like,
all relate.
"Hey, I'm not here to kink shame. If that's your thing, go for it." But that sounds like it fucking sucks to me. I don't that's I'm not into that. No, thank
Well,
you.
even the edgers wanna get off eventually,
I know, right?
and
Like there's
so
no yeah, just constant edging, no release,
no.
hard pass.
Yeah. Yeah, no thank you. So, anyway, that's the state of the, exciting but not so exciting Jellyfish UFO. We'll see. We'll continue to watch that and see what happens with it. I hope more comes out of it. I am not confident that it will, but I hope.
Yes, fingers crossed.
Um, did you have other news?
Oh boy, yeah, I always have something. Uh No, I mean, other stuff has happened. None of it is as interesting or as sexy as the jellyfish UFO. However, one thing kind of caught my attention because I see it popping up with some frequency, over like the past several years, especially. That's the idea of things like cursed paintings being sold at auction. So there was this
Okay.
cursed painting, yeah. So there was this cursed painting that was just sold on eBay for like over 2 grand, right? So like this thing started off in some like vintage store or secondhand. Oh, it's a charity shop. So like, if you've got like a St. Vinny's or a Goodwill or whatever, like it's like the UK version of that. And it was supposedly sold to this person who returned it because they started seeing shadow people and were generally cursed or whatever, and so they got scared and brought it back. Again, that's the story, and then it ends up in this shop's window with like this little note on it that's just like cursed question mark. I don't know. Are you brave enough to buy this? And so somebody else buys it, and they're like, "Oh, dude, totally cursed, so fucking cursed, you guys." And so then they sell it to somebody else for like $2,000. when they bought it for way less than that. Let me see. Yeah, I mean, let me see if I can find the actual price they bought it for. $32 from this charity
Wow.
shop. Yeah, sold it for over 2 grand once they applied this cursed narrative to it. And I've seen that several times over the past few years,
Oh, yeah.
where you'll get these people selling quote unquote cursed or haunted items on online auction sites. Like eBay is a huge one for this, and they'll sell $50 worth of junk for like 1,500 bucks or 2,000 bucks or whatever, for a lot of money compared to like what it's actually worth and what it cost them to actually like put together or acquire or
Right.
whatever. um, and so like right now, this specific cursed painting, like it's sitting in a tourist attraction. So like the person willing to pay over $2,000 for this was this UK tourist attraction called the London Bridge Experience, and it's kind of sitting in their welcome area. Like originally they just had it up for Halloween, so they could be like, oh, look at our spooky cursed painting. And then they came out saying that people who had worked there and even visitors had experienced strange phenomena surrounding this painting. And of course, it got picked up by like the Daily Mail and some of these UK tabloids. And so now it's just permanently sitting there. And it all seems very suspect, right? Now,
Yeah.
I'm not going to invalidate these people's experience. If they said weird shit happened to them, who the fuck am I to say that it didn't happen? I don't know if it did or not. I do know that if you buy something for $30 and sell it for $2,000, uh, I think that it is normal to be suspicious of that kind of profit margin
Yeah.
that only came about because of this specific narrative. So I don't know. I'm curious. I like to know what other people think about just the idea of cursed and haunted items. Like is that even a thing? Like, do people think that that's a possibility? Because how would it work? What's the mechanism behind that? Like what is a ghost, first of all,
Yeah.
or what is a spirit? What are they made out of? How would that attach to a specific item? Why would it attach to a specific item? And then just from there, like how does any of this fucking work? Like it just none of it makes a lot of sense to me, but I don't know. What do you think? Can items be cursed or haunted?
Jeez. So interesting that you bring this up because I had actually, there's an individual that I'm like Facebook friends with, and they had asked the same question. What do you think about haunted dolls?
Uh,
And they had actually posted that they were interested in buying this pair of haunted dolls off of eBay. And when they posted the picture, they're like, "Hey, does anybody feel anything from these dolls?" And you know, what I told them was, "Listen,
uh,
I think people go to Goodwill and buy these dolls for $5 and then they turn around and claim that they're haunted and sell them for a profit.
yeah,
So, are they haunted? Could they be haunted? My opinion is no, they're not. But the real question is, can you stand to lose $50 on that purchase if you buy
true.
it thinking it's haunted and nothing happens? I own a couple of allegedly haunted objects. Okay,
Uh,
some of which people have given to me. The very first thing that I had ever acquired that it's actually kind of more of a cursed object than a haunted object. This was well before I am who I am now, well before I did what I did, or do what I do rather. And I was working at a Wendy's, okay, as a cashier for the Wendy's lobby. The best damn Wendy's cashier you'd ever seen. But a woman comes in and she is dressed, beautifully. She's dressed in some really fascinating African garb. She's got several pieces of jewelry that she's wearing. And the first thing that I notice is this necklace that she has. And it is a very pretty color. I know now it's because it's carved out of bone and it's an elephant, but the whole thing is like carved out of bone, the chain and everything. And it's a little elephant with the trunk down, which is already considered bad luck. And I point out the necklace and I go, "Hey, nice necklace." And she's like, "Oh, thanks. Do you want it?" And immediately like rips it off of her body and hands it to me. She said, "This thing has caused me more problems than I care to admit." She said she guess what? She was in Africa recently, and that's where she got it from. And she on her way back home, her plane, she had issues with her plane trip. Like it was delayed. She wasn't able to get to leave for like 3 days, and then she crashed her car. On the way from the airport to her house, and all this like unfortunate stuff. Nothing like nobody like died or anything, but she's
Mhm.
obviously it's given her a lot of issues. So she gives it to me. um, you know, nothing bad or terrible. I'm not going to say nothing terrible has ever happened while I've owned this necklace because, well, it has. I was 17 at the time. Of course, life happens. But do I think it's the cause of the necklace? Not at all. And further, it kind of makes me wonder. Like, I wish I could talk to that lady again because, like, if it was such bad luck, why was she continuing to wear it? Like, she didn't
Right.
come straight to Wendy's from her trip. Like, it wasn't like that or anything.
She crashed her car into the Wendy's.
Wendy's, yeah. And then she came in and ordered a Frosty, and we were
Right.
all out, and
The curse continues. Yeah.
it continued.
Dangerous.
Um, you know, but why was she walking around wearing it still? And then why was she so willing to give it to somebody, like that? And maybe that's why. Maybe she just waited. I mean, maybe she had that type of superstition. She thought it would call to someone, and I happened to be the person, and I took it. So that was the first item that I had. I have two allegedly haunted dolls. I mean, nothing's ever happened with any of these objects. And then I've got a candle holder, like a candlestick holder, that the person said was super haunted. They couldn't keep a candle in it. Every time they put a candle in it and they lit it, it would fall out on purpose. They've seen the candle get picked up and thrown across the room. They were convinced it would catch their house on fire. I've never had any of those issues. So,
I
um,
mean, you didn't pay a lot of money for this stuff, so
I
it's
didn't buy
fine.
any of it. No, there's
Yeah,
all of it's
like,
given to me. And I wouldn't, if it were like aesthetically creepy, I would take it. So like one of the dolls I did buy,
uh,
but she looks scary. She's old. She's a 150-year-old doll. Like of
oh, sure.
course, you know. But I bought it because I thought it looks neat. It looks like a haunted doll.
Right.
But nothing's ever. I mean, nothing's ever happened. And I think that my personal opinion is that I'm already weird about hauntings anyway. I think that they happen. I don't think they happen with the regularity people claim that they do.
Yeah.
But I think they do happen, and I'm not convinced that they're dead people. And when this stuff does happen, I think that the person attaches a significance to the item. It's not so much that the item itself is possessed or doing weird things. It's that it is doing weird things because you are experiencing a haunting in your house. Period.
Yeah, sure. I mean, who
um,
knows? But yeah, I struggle with the idea that there are haunted and cursed objects.
yeah.
For basically the reason you just described. Like, if there was something that produced paranormal phenomena with that kind of frequency, it would be studied in a fucking lab.
Yes.
Like,
Right.
it's just not a thing,
Right.
unfortunately.
Yeah, I agree. I have had instances with Robert the doll, who I've never met in person.
Mhm.
And you know what? It just depends on how much you believe in coincidence. So we had Heather on, Heather Mosier, and we talked about haunted
Sure.
objects. She says that she has a couple. I trust Heather. I trust her research. And for whatever reason, we had gotten on the topic of Robert, and I don't really remember why. And then it's like right after that episode, I couldn't everywhere it turned, there was something about Robert. It was so
Mhm.
weird to the point to where I go to the Mothman Festival and I come upon Mark Muncy from Erie Travels. And I'd met Mark before, but you kind of with your mutuals, you just kind of get closer over time. But he's there with his little teeny tiny Robert the doll replica. And just like, are
Mm.
you serious? Again, it depends on how much you believe in coincidence. But it was like I couldn't get it. It was like in my timelines on all my social media. I mean, I couldn't get away from Robert the doll for a minute. So
Well, there's such a thing as confirmation bias. It's like
exactly.
when you buy a new car and then suddenly you notice
Right.
every other fucking person who drives the same car,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? Where you're like, "Oh, why am I suddenly surrounded by Honda CRVs?" Like, well, they
Right.
were always there. You just weren't paying attention, and
Yeah.
you didn't ascribe any significance to them until suddenly
Until
they
you
were
had one. Yeah.
significant, and now you're noticing them everywhere.
Yep.
So,
And that, so I mean, it very much could be that. I mean, I'll still go see Robert. I would like to.
yeah,
Do I think it's haunted? Well, I don't really want to test it so much to find out because he causes a lot of terrible things to happen to people. But I don't know. I also kind of want to test it to find out. Well, we'll see.
well, I mean, I for this, I would defer to somebody like my buddy Chad Lewis, right?
Yeah.
So he like he does this whole thing and it's fucking brilliant. I love it. Where he just goes to like cursed locations and he does the thing that's supposed to like curse you and he's just thriving.
Yeah.
Like he's done so many fucking dares that are supposed to curse you or haunt you or whatever. And he's fine. He's doing great. So I think that kind of says it all to
Yeah.
me. It's
Yeah.
like, well, it has whatever significance that you're willing to invest in it. And if that's zero, then hey, congratulations, you're immune to curses.
Exactly. It is one of those things. What's his name? Bigger than Chad Lewis. Oh my
Bigger than
god.
Chad Lewis. What?
Oh, I know, right? Come
Impossible.
on. What's his name? Oh my god. Shane Madej from the Ghoul Boys. I think they have a different series now. They were from BuzzFeed Unsolved.
Okay.
One thing that so they have a huge YouTube channel. They go out to all these places. Actually, they're really cool. I really like them. Um, better than some of the other stuff. But like Shane is the skeptic, and like he does not give one shit, not one fuck about anything, and like he teases and prods and tortures and dares these spirits to come for him, and they never do.
Right.
So, I mean, he does all the things that you're not supposed to do, and nothing ever happens. Like the guy is a YouTube star.
Right. He's
So
cursed to be a YouTube star.
right. Ooh, terrible. So I mean, I've tested the limits of things and I've never had an issue, so that I know of. Like I said, do bad things happen? Yeah, life's like that. That's just called living.
Yeah, of course.
But nothing that I would, ascribe to a certain object or event or anything like that. So, whatever. You want to talk about time travelers?
I think we probably should. We've been talking about everything but time
Everything
travelers
else.
for a long time now.
Everything else. It's okay. We had a lot of catching up to do.
That's true.
That's what happens when you come off a break. What's your personal history with time travelers?
Well, as a time traveler, no,
Right.
I don't have a personal history with time travelers, in that I have never met one. But it's one of those weird topics that it's been on my radar for a long time, obviously, because those stories are fascinating. Um, because I'm a sci-fi nerd. I like fantasy and horror and sci-fi things, and so when somebody is putting stuff out on the internet talking about how they're a time traveler from the future, warning us about a fucking imminent civil war or something, then yeah, I mean, like that's interesting.
Yeah.
I want to hear more. But to date, unfortunately, I have seen very little to no compelling evidence for the existence of actual travelers. However, I have received at least one very interesting report about a possible time anomaly. And that was from a witness that I was actually able to speak to directly. So I think that there are a lot of interesting and weird possibilities when it comes to time and how we perceive time and how it might actually all work. And I think it certainly allows for some anomalous phenomena, right? But if somebody online tells you tells you they're a time traveler, they're probably a fucking con artist.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, so I guess I'll start off with this. I do kind of have a history with somebody who is associated with time traveling. So let me say this: in researching this episode, and this isn't the first time I've covered time travelers here. So we actually did an episode about time travel and paradoxes. I don't know, probably within the first 100 episodes. So go listen to that because I'm not necessarily going to cover the same things there that I did here. But what is a time traveler is kind of up for debate. You've got some people who claim that they are from the future. You've got time slips that happen, right? Is that considered time traveling? You got people that end up in scenarios where they are all of a sudden in a different place in time and then they come back. Did they time travel? You've got people that are interested in building time machines, which is where my association comes from. What's the deal with that? So it's a very umbrella term, I feel like, and it doesn't seem like it would be, right?
Mhm.
But it definitely is. So my experience with it is with Michael Madman Marcum. Have you heard of this guy?
I don't think so.
So, Madman Mike, he was somebody who popped up on, Coast to Coast, and
Oh, okay, never mind. I think I know who he is.
yep, and he comes on, and I mean, this is just, I have a couple of different instances I'll share, and I'm just kind of sharing cliff notes, but I have personal association with this fellow.
Okay.
So he comes on Coast to Coast. He's building a time machine, and he claims that he has kind of successfully teleported something, kind of like in The Fly. He had teleported objects from one spot to another, and assumes that that is time travel, right? That has to do with that's. I mean, he was able to do it, so it was good. Not people, but objects, batteries, and coins, and things like that. So he had actually been arrested. He did some time. He had disappeared. He comes on Coast to Coast, talks about his time machine that he's making. He disappears because he spent time in jail for trying to steal these transformers from the local utility company that were hanging out on the side of the road, because he needed them for his time machine.
Well,
Okay.
obviously. They should have
Obviously.
just donated them.
Right. And, so he goes to prison and he gets out and he goes back on Coast to Coast. He explains to Art what happened. And Art goes, well, you know what? We'll help you with that. Let's raise the funds and if you can build this time machine, do it and show us. And he goes, you know what? Yes. And they do. They raise the funds. He builds his machine. He goes, okay, my machine's ready. Come to this address at this date and time, and I will demonstrate. And that date and time comes, and Michael's nowhere to be found. He is gone. And so I read this story, okay? I read it online, and the claim was that here's what the claim was that somebody was making on some weird online post was that back in, like, I don't know, the 1900s, like the early 1900s, some random man was found on a beach, and they thought their theory was that this was Mike Markham, and he was dead, but he had like weird things on his person that would insinuate that he's from the future. It ended up being a cold case. Nobody ever solved it. Again, people assume that this is Mike. Well, I'm like, no way. So I start looking into it. And come to find out, it's not Mike. Mike is alive. How do I know Mike's alive? Because I was friends with him on Facebook. So,
I mean, that's a good way. Yeah.
right. Being friends with him on Facebook and had no idea. So I was like, I'm gonna reach out to this guy. Let's talk about it. Why did he disappear? Because he did. He did no more public appearances. I'm like, whatever happened with your time machine? Why didn't you follow up? And I message him and I do this spiel. I introduce myself. Hey, I'm this person. This is what I do. This is why I'm interested. So I'm messaging you. And he messages me back and like these weird cryptic messages. And
Mm.
it was weird. Come to find out, so he lived in Ohio. And that was another thing. I'm like, well, if he lives in Ohio, that's where I live. Hey, he doesn't live in Ohio anymore. He had moved to Hawaii. And, he's like, well, if you come here, I can show you some things. And I'm like, I'm not going to come there.
Yeah, let me just hop on a plane real quick.
I don't have a time traveling machine. I can't just come there.
Right?
Even if I could, you're being
Mail
fucking
me your teleporter and I'll be
right.
there. Yeah,
Be there to jiffy.
no problem.
So I wasn't gonna go there, but I kept trying to message him. And what's weird is like he would stop messaging me, for months, and then eventually he would come back on again and message me, and it would not really get anywhere, and it just kind of did that forever. He had kind of newfound interest because the Y Files YouTube channel, which is another one I really enjoyed, did a whole episode on him, so he kind of
Mm.
got popular again. And he was like posting, I mean, recently posting just really weird shit, and like, which made it sound like he was being followed by the government. He was paranoid. Okay, maybe this guy's nuts, right? Um, but today, listen, I don't know if this is true or not. I haven't verified this. Maybe by the time Wednesday comes around, we'll know. Today, there's a post on the internet saying that he died. He just died today, the day that we're supposed to talk about time travelers.
Is it? I mean, were you able to verify it? Did
I,
he actually die?
I haven't been able to verify it yet. So I don't know. It would be a weird rumor to go around, but considering, like I said, his posts and things like that, he's not on Facebook. Like his Facebook is completely gone. It's so weird.
It is weird. Well, okay, honestly, all right. First of all, the corpse that was found, like the body
On the
that was
beach,
found,
right?
what did it have on it that made people think it was from the future?
It was like he had like a weird device on it, like some type of electronic device that some people think was maybe a cell phone, and like that was the big like that was the big kicker. I never found any information about this cold case beach body.
And like, what year was the case from?
It was like the early I mean, I don't remember. It was like sometime in the early 1900s, could have been
Oh, okay.
1920s. You know, it was like obviously from a time period where Mike's not alive now.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah, okay.
mhm,
And so, like, but again, like, we don't have official documentation or anything, so it could
no.
just be made up. Okay.
So that part to me sounded completely made up, but that's what got me interested in researching it. I was like, "Wait a minute, hold on."
Right, right, right.
Because I'd never I mean, it was the first time I'd ever come across that story in general, but I was like, "Hmm, well, there's gotta be documentation of the dead body somewhere. Does this match up?" Never found anything about it, but kinda didn't really look too deeply into it at once I found out that he was alive and we were Facebook friends, you know, I was just
Yeah, at that point, like, whatever, it's
was
no
gonna
longer
talk to him
relevant.
right, I was gonna talk to him directly. So, I tried, I really put a valiant effort into it, and, you know, some of these messages are just they're just not you know, they're unhinged, I
Okay.
guess is the nicest way to put it.
I
Um,
mean, if that's the nicest way to put it, I can only imagine.
yeah. I mean, there's only, like, 6 of them I'm looking at him, he's like, "Hi, who might you be?" And I told him who I am, and he just said, "Ha." And I'm like, "Okay, well, let's talk about it." He says, "Come over this way, I'll show you secrets I know." And that's what I'm like, "Where are
Uh,
you at?" He said, "Hawaii." And I told him I was in Ohio. He asked me what area I was in, where he lived at, and then that was it. That was the end of the conversation. Like, but
okay.
these little responses that he's giving me are months in between.
Right.
Like, they're not even like we're not making
And
any
so
headway.
we have no idea why he kinda, like, disappeared when
No.
it was time for him to put up or shut up with his time travel machine.
Exactly. No
Did he
idea.
get
Oh, go
did
ahead.
he get the money for it that, like, they were raising?
He allegedly built it. Yes, he allegedly had built the whole thing. It was ready to go. He had a date and
Well,
time and then
that's
wasn't there.
that's obviously a con. I
He
mean,
says that the government came and dismantled his I wish his Facebook was still up because he
uh,
does post a lot of really interesting stuff. I mean, schematics and explanations and I mean, he was really going into full detail about how to build this machine.
uh,
And then all of a sudden the government's after him.
okay. Well, all right, let's try this experiment. Everybody out there, we're gonna raise $100,000 that you will send to me, no strings attached, and I will use that money to build a time machine. I promise you guys. Swear to God, I will.
He's
And if I disappear or it doesn't get built, it's the government's
government.
fault.
Yeah,
So you
there you go.
can't hold me responsible. That's 100% legit.
I'll put Tobias's, Cash App, Venmo, whatever it is that you use, and then
Yes. Thank you. I mean, that's basically what happened, right? Like it
yes,
wasn't like a
it
hundred grand,
is.
but people raised a bunch of money. He got the money and then
Right.
he fucked off to Hawaii or something. It was just like,
Yep.
thanks, idiots.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, from my
Wow.
understanding, when he got to Hawaii I mean, he's always been kind of like a nomadic type person, which is a really nice way to say couch surfer.
Sure.
Which
Bohemian.
Bohemian, sure. There we go. So when he gets to Hawaii, he's not living large, but if he only raised 5 grand, which I don't think it was like an insane amount of money, like
Sure.
I think it was something like that. Then sure, okay, 5 grand could get him a long way.
You could live on the
Um,
beach for almost nothing.
right, and then here I am trying to talk to him, trying to have a direct conversation, really interested in his story, like legitimately want to know, and he's still not responding, really.
Yeah.
You know so was he able to build a successful time machine? Well, it's not here, so we're gonna say no. But I mean, maybe. I doubt it,
I mean, that's charitable.
but maybe.
Yeah,
It's an
but
interesting
maybe.
story. At least he is a person that you could have maybe talked to. Again, I do find it weird that he
Mm,
died today. If that's true, I don't
right.
know. I mean, that's another thing. Somebody can't just be like, "Oh yeah, well he died today," and I can't be like, "Oh, well yeah, he definitely died." Like I'm even skeptical of that.
There should be
Um,
an obituary or something. Yeah.
well, and I haven't found one yet for him, which is tough because if he was Bohemian, there might not be.
Yeah, yeah, you never know. Well, that would boy, that kinda poses the question though, like, how did this person even know that he died then? Because
Right.
if he was in a position for people who knew him or cared about him to know that he died, then there would have to be some kind of official documentation. Like the
True.
authorities would know who he was, so there could be an official obituary. And because you can't just die and have nothing happen, like
Yeah.
we don't do that. Like there has to be some kind of inquiry, no matter what, to determine the cause of death, to rule out any kind of foul play or anything else. And so you have to have a death certificate. You have to have, your body looked at by a medical examiner or something. And so all of that stuff would have happened. And if he was on the grid enough for people to know that he died, then the authorities, wherever he died, should have been able to identify him. And so there should be an actual official paper trail.
So I see that
Um, yeah.
Nate sent us something. We have a personal member of the Men in Black that listens to the show, and he just in the chat a potential obituary. So just based off the picture alone, no, that's not him. This is like a younger guy. He was, I think, born in like maybe 1980 or maybe 1970s. Not as old as this gentleman. R.I.P. to that Mike Marcum, though. So the person, I'll tell you my source for he died. My source for he died is somebody on Reddit. So it's not a really credible source, but it was somebody
Oh,
on the
okay.
time travel Reddit, which is filled with a lot of skeptics. But then again, still not a credible source. But one thing they did mention was that he had been battling some type of cancer for a long time, which actually kind of does make sense with, like I said, maybe his types of posts, the increasing paranoia, and the sudden disappearance from social media. Some people will do that knowing that they're terminal, will be like, I just want to be remembered for who I was, and they will get off social media. So maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I can't rule it out, obviously.
Yeah.
I think it's sad anytime somebody dies. So I hope this guy didn't really die.
Yeah.
I hope he's out there somewhere thriving, building time
Building time
machines.
machines, yeah. If he did not die, I will still continue to try to bother him to try to get his side of the story because I am now personally invested in it. And
Right.
if he did die, rest in peace, Mike Madman Markham. I mean that's my history. Time travelers.
Right. No, I mean, that is interesting. Now, have you ever, because as somebody who is interested in this stuff, I mean, I've never seen a credible claim claim of somebody being an actual time
Right.
traveler. I mean, have you ever seen? Because we've all heard the people who've gone on coast to coast. claiming to have built time machines. And it's, or two, my favorite is that they claim to be from the future. Those are my
Mhm.
absolute favorite. Because then the prophecies that are passed down to us from them, they never come true. They never even come close to coming true. And it's easy to kind of wiggle out of that and be like, oh well, you see what happens when you time travel is you create a new timeline, and so it doesn't actually have to happen the way that I remember. Um, in which case, shut the fuck up then.
Right.
Like you don't know what you're talking about. You can't predict the future if we're in a different timeline. So who cares? Just go about your business, whatever you're here to do, and then fuck off. I guess I don't
Yeah.
know.
So
Yeah,
no, I have never found a credible somebody that says that they're from the future and they're here now. Um, some stories are bigger than others, but we have a couple of them, right? That made big news. John Teeter, I think, is probably
that
the
one's my favorite.
is the most well
Yeah,
known, and that was fun, right?
yeah, yeah.
But none of the shit that John Teeter said ever came true,
Oh no,
and
not even close.
we've got multiple people that were like, "Well, it was me," you had a whole group of people that were like, "It was all of us." Um, there's like he had a mysterious woman that was working with him or something. I think he even wrote a couple books,
Right.
which makes it all the more fun, I guess. It's a very fun story, but again, none of that ever happened. You've got the time travelers ball from Stephen Hawking did, where he invited time travelers to come to this party just for them, and nobody came.
Right.
Um, so why not? But you've got the other people that are like, well, listen, they're not supposed to be like making themselves known. They're supposed to be hidden, and because paradox. There was a one guy who met. They both time traveled to here, but it was him. So he time traveled from the year 2030. And then his future self time traveled from the year 2070. His name was Noah Novak.
Oh, don't you hate it when that happens?
I know, right? And then they sat
So awkward.
down and like hung out with each other. um, and gave an interview. And then, what was surprising was that the original, like the younger, the 2030 Noah Novak was actually originally from 2021. And this
Uh,
was all taking place in 2018 or somewhere. Anyway, um, but none of them to me have provided any credible evidence. Here's what I've always said about humans time traveling. If we were to time travel, that means that we would have evolved. We would go from being, guess what, third dimensional to fourth dimensional, because the fourth dimension is having having the perception and the power over time and space.
mm,
So that would be a big deal. That would be a massive deal. But aside from that, we're now in 2024. We have never had a time traveler that's credible yet. It's never happened. You know, is it because they're hiding amongst us in society? I suppose so. But then why did some of them come forward, like John Teeter? Um, and just
well, we
kind
don't
of.
even.
Oh, go ahead.
eh, Oh, I was just gonna say, like, we don't even know that time travel is possible. I mean, there are some theoretical models I think that allow for it,
Yeah.
but there's really nothing concrete. I mean, certainly, like traveling into the future seems a lot less problematic than traveling into the past,
Yeah.
right? But you brought up like four-dimensional, like a four-dimensional view of time, which is
Right.
fascinating to me because like you suddenly become like Doctor Manhattan from Watchmen,
I know. It
where
makes it sound so cool.
yeah, right, where like everything is just happening simultaneously.
Yeah. Right.
Viewing time, well, how we view space, right, where we can kind of see the whole vista laid out in front of us. And boy, that gets fucking weird real fast because, like, what does
Because we're
that
not
say
supposed
about?
to.
Well, like, what does it say about free will?
Yeah.
I mean, if you can view time like that, does that mean everything's predetermined? Does that mean we don't have free will and things are going to happen no matter what? Like, are all of our actions preordained? Like I don't like that. Yeah.
Right.
I don't like things that invalidate free will. You
Yeah.
know, like it gets real weird real fast.
It does, it does, and so, I mean, that is a paradox in and of itself. Like you said, if you could lay out time and you could look at it, then that means that, like, you could look at yourself as an old person, and you could look at your family and your kids and your everything, but then you can also look at yourself as a child. And if you were to pick that point in time that you're a child and you decide to go into it and influence it, does that mean you zoom back out? And then when you look at your old person, your family's different, you know?
Right. I mean, are these points in time immutable?
Yeah,
You know, or can they be changed, or would the result simply be a sort of like fracturing of time into separate timelines?
right. What
You know, I
exactly?
think the
Yeah,
timeline hypothesis would make the most sense to me,
right.
because it's the one that avoids all paradoxes. So, you know, if I went back in time, you know, as like, I don't know, just for the sake of argument, if I went back in time and like just fucking killed myself as a baby,
Sure.
just punted me into the sun, um, would I cease to exist, or would I have just created a timeline where some asshole kicked a baby into the sun? You know,
You be you become a different baby at that point. Your consciousness goes into, or well, right. So then your future self kicks your baby self into the sun, right? Your future self starts disappearing, but now because your future self doesn't exist, does that mean that you didn't exist to go and kick yourself into the sun?
thus
That's
the
a paradox.
paradox. So you'd have to create a new timeline where really I just went and killed me as a baby, but the timeline where I'm from still exists. So I still exist.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I mean, it gets strange. Now, I agree. There hasn't really been people who it makes a lot of sense, and or it adds up, right? There's not been anybody that's been able to predict with accuracy anything that's happened because they've lived it or they know the history. Um, and sure, people can go, well, it's because they can't. They're not allowed to tell us, or they stay hidden or whatever. Great. That's just solving a mystery with another mystery, and I'm not a fan of that.
Right.
But in this research, things that I did find interesting were cases of people that do tend to experience a type of time slip. And I think
Yes.
those are neat because I think that this happens a lot and what we call it. So I'm so hung up on terms and what we call things is a haunting. And
Okay.
it's not, who knows? Is that what it is? Well, it would seem that way. So one of the stories that I ended up pulling was about and the source for this is Strange Magazine. Okay, it came out and it was an article written in the 1980s about a gentleman by the name of LC. That's what he went by. Was driving on the road with one of his business partners in 1969, and they had come across an antique car. They said once they got closer to this antique car, they were really impressed by it, right? It's men, they like their cars. They had noticed that the license plate said 1940 on it. And so, really interested by that because it's obviously not a legal license plate. And because you didn't really see a lot of antique cars at that time, they kind of start to follow it and they pull up next to the car and they see a woman dressed in, well, 1950s garb driving the car and a child in the back seat that was also dressed in the garb. Now, they said that the woman and child were both freaking out. They said it was very obvious that they were as shocked to see them as they were to see her. And so they tried to pull her over. They tried to get her to pull over the side of the road, and they do. So they get in front of her and they pull over and she pulls over behind them. And when they get out of the car, that car's not there anymore.
Ooh.
And not just that, it gets weirder. So they continue their drive and they see the car again. And they see another car pulling the same maneuvers and looking, checking out the antique car, trying to get her to pull over. And he does. He gets her to pull over and then the car disappears. So now you've got these three men all together that had the same event happened and they're all like, what the fuck? But didn't report it at the time because they knew it sounded crazy and they didn't
Well,
want to sound crazy.
who would you even report that to? Like,
Right.
that's not a matter for the fucking police, right?
Strange magazine, apparently.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's what you do is you hold on to the story forever. Maybe you tell some of your friends, and eventually, potentially, if it has affected your life enough where you go seeking out similar, cases and stories, you might tell somebody like us. You know, so yeah, like I don't find that
Yeah.
particularly suspicious because it's
Right.
something we hear a lot. I'm sure you've heard it from witnesses plenty of times. Like
Oh, yeah.
who the fuck are you going to report this to? You're not calling 911 because of a ghost car.
Especially in 1969,
Yeah,
where
for sure.
there wasn't podcasts about this stuff. So that's interesting.
It is.
If you look at it, I mean, I think that the most popular thought that people would get from that tale, if you did not include time slip or time travel or any of that, is that it's a ghost.
Sure.
you know but I think that the fact that the driver of the car seemed to be just as surprised as they were is kind of a testament to it not being a ghost.
I think it's really interesting. Yeah, I think the fact that they reported that this so-called apparition reacted to them is
Yeah.
very very interesting,
Right.
because that's something that I've often thought about. I think that there could potentially be different explanations for similar phenomena. So like some
Right.
hauntings, I think could potentially be time slips.
Oh.
What did I say instead? Whoops.
Oh.
Yeah, woo, getting hot in
You had a
here.
Freudian slip.
Yeah, yikes. I think I I oh boy, no. I think that some hauntings, yes, could be time slips. I think that maybe some of them could be representative of other phenomena. Maybe some of them are human consciousness. Who knows? But one of the things that I've often pondered is if some of them are time slips and what they're representing are people meeting across time, then we should be getting reports of people uh, witnessing a reaction
Mhm.
from these apparitions, and that's what I find really interesting about this specific story is that reaction.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And it's funny because had this happened, let's like shift the timeline a little bit, right? So they're seeing somebody from the 1940s. What if, this event happened in 2024, and instead the make and model of the car is 1990, right? Let's just say, and the
Yeah,
time slip person is coming to 2024 from 1990, and maybe they have a little bit more resources. Like would we have heard that person on Coast to Coast being like, well, one time I was driving and I saw these futuristic cars everywhere, and like I would have loved to have heard the woman's side.
right.
But I mean, it was 1940s, she probably didn't report it to anybody. um I don't
Well,
know.
I mean, honestly, well, okay, I've got a couple of experiences, something that I experienced and something that Emily experienced, and then another report that I received from a gentleman in Springfield that might actually be relevant. Let me start with the gentleman from Springfield. So I took this report from a guy who wanted to report this weird flying humanoid. Like, so he had said that he had encountered this weird flying humanoid, and long story short, basically he was in Springfield, down in Illinois, and he was walking home one evening along these train tracks, and he experienced this weird sort of anomalous environment. Like everything suddenly got very strange. The landscape seemed to change somewhat,
Hmm.
and he even said that like at one point the trees kind of seemed like they were moving. Like it was just very weird and anomalous. And as if that wasn't weird enough, he said that he witnessed this humanoid on a flying like scooter, basically.
Huh.
So if you picture like this hover scooter up in the air, like at tree level, with a headlight and everything, following this guy. And he thought it was some kind of like UFO, like something related
Sure.
maybe to a UFO activity or something similar. But now that we're talking about it, how do I know, or how do we know that this wasn't a time slip? How do we
Yeah.
know that he didn't witness some sort of futuristic vehicle being driven by a human being, who, it could be centuries in the future, our future, who also witnessed this guy and is now, in the year uh 25, 24, going like, what the fuck was that?
Right,
You know?
exactly, yeah, and we won't know until he reports it, you
Right, we just have to wait like 300 years, and we'll solve this mystery. And then I've had my own weird experience with like a seeming ghost, right? That very much could have been something like a time slip. This is when Emily and I lived back in Madison, and I was out walking our dog Bullet, and he's the kind of dog. He's a sniffer, and he's a marker, and he gets excited. He's friendly, so he gets excited when he sees people. And so we had walked to the corner, maybe like half a block from our house, and he's sniffing around this fucking light pole that he likes to pee on. And when he does it, I'm always like, my head's on a swivel. I'm always looking around to see if anybody's coming. It's like the middle of the afternoon, and I'm looking around to see, because I don't want anybody to sneak up on us, because then, he's gonna go ape shit and like try to lick them and jump on them and stuff. And so I'm looking around, and I'm on this corner, and I look to my left, and maybe a half a block away on the sidewalk, I see this middle aged woman. Is probably maybe in her mid 40s. I could be anywhere from like late 30s to like early 50s. Who knows? She was a half a block away from me, and she looks like she's power walking, like she's getting some exercise, and she's got this like pink jumpsuit or sweatsuit, I think, because it wasn't a jumpsuit, because it was two pieces, right? So she's got this like pink exercise clothing on. She's got like a pink headband, and she's wearing glasses, and she had like shoulder length brown hair. And she's like power walking towards us. So I'm like, ah, fuck. All right, Bullet, like hurry up so we can get out of this lady's way. And so like I look over, I see her. I glance down at Bullet for like a second to see if he's done sniffing this thing so we can pee on it and we can move on. And I look back, and she's gone, just
Oh,
vanished. And so I'm like, well, what the fuck, right? Like, there's no place that she should have been able to go. There are houses there, but I only looked down for like a split second. And so she would have had to have like ninja rolled into some bushes or something. And so I'm like, well, what the fuck? Like, we need to investigate this mystery. And so I take Bullet, and we walk down the street to see if like maybe she went between some houses or something. And again, there's no way that we shouldn't have been able to see it, and there's no way that we shouldn't have been able to find her if she was there, but she was just gone. Like, she just vanished into thin air.
wow.
um and what's really interesting about that to me is, not that much later, Emily was out walking Bullet, and something very similar happened. She was like across the street, like kitty corner across the street from where I was, in front of the community center where we used to live. And she was walking him, and again, he's doing his thing where he's sniffing around, and he's probably gonna pee, but it's taking forever. And she looks up, and she sees this gentleman dressed in like early-ish 20th century period clothing. He's got slacks on and a vest, and like one of those newsboy hats. And uh and and he just vanishes, right? uh
Interesting.
yeah, and it's nuts. And I mean, there are two uh, actual possibilities here, right? Because yeah, I mean, maybe he was from the 1920s or something,
Sure.
but also like our neighborhood was full of hipsters, so he could have just been a
It's
vanishing
yeah,
hipster. It's impossible to say, but both of those experiences just as easily could have represented a quick glimpse into another time, than somebody who had passed away and for whatever reason was power walking down this street in the middle of the afternoon as like a dead person, right? If they very much both seemed closer to something like a time slip. Like that explanation just made more sense.
Well, right, or neither of them are dead. They are just people living their life, and they kind of come to, and they're like, "Hmm, that was weird. They saw you," but
Yeah.
just kind of went on about their life, thinking, "Well, maybe it was just a hipster,"
Right.
or
Well,
whatever.
yeah. I think that's really interesting. Like, I would love to find out, of
Mhm.
course, if there
Sure.
was some lady who was out power walking one afternoon and saw this dude standing with a dog who just vanished.
Right.
You
Right.
know?
I mean, here the flip side of that. I mean, how many of these ghost sightings, apparitions are, they're wearing period clothing. Um, they look like they're from the 19 whatevers or 18 whatevers. I mean, a lot of them are.
Yeah.
And we just assume
But
that they're
not
dead.
mine.
Not
She,
yours. Yeah.
she was wearing like a pink tracksuit. It
You have like
was
a 1980s power walker.
something.
She
Yeah.
could still be
Maybe
alive.
90s. I don't know.
I mean, honestly, like she could still be alive, and maybe somehow she'll listen to the show and she'll get in contact with you. I don't,
I would love that. Yes.
um, that would be really neat. She's like, "Yeah, I saw you, and it was 1984. It was crazy." That would help.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
but I mean, yeah, I mean, how many of them do? I mean, people just assume, oh, it was a dead person. Well, we don't fucking know that, really, do we?
No. No, in
um,
in these cases, we definitely don't know that.
We don't. And they could have been just a person living their life and in the moment also experience something strange. Or sometimes they don't people do end up in that time period for just a moment, and they are interacting with the people around them, and maybe they think they're a stranger, but there's multiple people. So there's a street in Liverpool. It's called Bold Street, and it's just a cute little town, and back in the 1990s, a woman claims that she was, just shopping around the little town one day, and all of a sudden, everything changed. All of a sudden, she is in a different time period. There's different people wearing different clothing. It's strange. And then all of a sudden, everything changes back. And
Hmm,
since then, people have reported that this happens. All that, like, this is a local urban legend that they have. It's the time slip of Bold Street, is what they call it, and they claim that you can be walking down the street and all of a sudden you are in a different time period. And
cool.
then
Let's
and then
go.
you come back. I know, right? I'm like, I want to go here. I've never been to Liverpool.
Right?
Yes. I would definitely go and walk down. I mean, I'll go spend a week and all I'll do is walk that fucking street back and forth.
Yeah, like, can you drink, can you drink outside there? Because if I could just have a beer and walk back and forth on the street, I would, just
Probably
up and
because
down
it's
the
the
street.
UK, so I think
Yeah,
they're like cool with that kind of stuff.
they're pretty
So
chill there, right? Yeah.
right, we'll just fucking just we'll go get a couple of pink track suits and we'll power
Yes,
walk
just power walk.
with our beers.
Absolutely.
Up and down the street all week long and see if it happens. So, I mean, these things are interesting because that is again, when you immediately think about time traveler, what you think about is people coming to our time from the future. But there's these other examples where it's not that. Um, Another one that I really wanted to bring up is again more of reincarnation, but it does involve some time travel, and this is such an interesting story to me. I love this one. It's the boy from Mars. Have you heard of the boy from Mars?
Boy, that sounds really familiar.
Well, it should. We did a show about it. Not you and I, but I did
Right,
a show
right,
about
right.
it. So the boy from Mars. I don't have every single detail. Again, if you want to look it up, just type in the boy from Mars. Um, so there was this boy that was born in Russia, and he was like a baby genius. Okay, and I think he was born in the 1990s, I believe. I know his first name's Bariska. Don't ask me to tell you his last name. I can't, just because I can't say it.
Yeah, fair enough.
And so he was, like I said, he was born like a baby genius and could like speak all these languages by the time he was at an impossible age. And he knew all this stuff. And then kind of as he got a little bit older and could talk to people, started telling everybody that he was a Martian from Mars. And they're like, "What do you mean?" And I mean, he would go into this intricate detail about life on Mars and what that's like. And he said that eventually there was like a series of natural catastrophes that forced them to go live underground. And he thought that later on in life, as he continued to get older, that he was reincarnated on Earth because we are going the same route that the Martians went. We will destroy our planet and we won't be able to live here anymore. It's going to kill all of us. Not entirely wrong. Now, these tales are interesting because it's like he's like 1,000 years in the future from where he was. I mean, I think it's more than 1,000 years, but from where the Martians were when he lived there. He ended up saying that his people were like extremely tall, and this he's like making these claims as like a 7-year-old kid. He said that
Uh,
there was something weird about the Sphinx. That there was like a hidden room in the Sphinx, and he knew that. He just knew it. He did make other predictions about natural disasters that did not come true. But the claims of like being really tall, he did end up, he's an adult now. He did end up growing up to be like 6'7" or something crazy like that.
hmm.
And then the Sphinx, did find a secret room in the Sphinx exactly where he said it was. Like, these are things that again no 7-year-old kid would know, or however old he was. But an interesting story. I mean, he did grow up to be like this crazy genius. I don't really know what he's doing now. There was like an update on him a couple years ago. But I think that's a really fascinating story. So, you know, is that does that fall in line with the time travel because of the discrepancy in time? I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, that really opens the door to like reincarnation being a form of time travel, which it kind of is.
It kind of
You know,
is.
if reincarnation is real, if it exists, then yeah, what you do have is aspects of human consciousness, human souls, if you prefer that word, literally traveling throughout the ages, like
Mhm.
persisting across the ages throughout time. So yeah, I don't know. I'm inclined to allow it just because my personal like Fordian outlook it tends towards the inclusive rather than exclusive
Sure.
when it comes to weird shit. So sure, I'll allow it. Reincarnation is time travel. You heard it here first.
And that boy was born on Mars. I don't know. Originally, he's from Mars. It's an interesting story. I downplayed it a lot. Go listen to the podcast episode on it, or just go research it. It is an interesting story. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, like you said, does it count? Sure. Yeah. Why not? Why not?
Sure.
And then really the last big thing that I had. This is another personal experience, not mine, but somebody that I know. Um, Again, predates me as an investigator, so I don't do this stuff. It's just something that happened as I was friends with this girl. She received a text message from herself from the future, and it was very weird. Now, this was like on the brink of smartphones, okay? So it was still a regular phone. There was text messaging, but not like it is now. And she received a text message from herself from the future that just said Noel, okay? And
Null, like
no,
spelled how?
Null, Noel,
Oh, null.
like
Okay.
null and void.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
Um, And so, is this weird glitch that happened? It could be. The date on it, I don't remember what it was, but it was like 15 years. It wasn't like an impossible date. Like it was somewhere where like we could track this and like see what happens. Unfortunately, I am not friends with her anymore. She would be able to tell me the date, but we don't talk. And I don't know if that date may have already come and passed, and maybe she found out what it meant. But I've looked into it. I've looked it up, and a lot of people have received text messages from themselves from the future, but they don't tend to happen like in mass. And there's really none of the cell phone companies have addressed it, and they're like, yeah, that can happen sometimes. Like,
Don't worry about it.
right, it's fine. But they never have, and like that's where like you're gonna find a lot of these text messages from the future is people are on like Verizon or T-Mobile or whatever your local phone company is, and they're like trying to troubleshoot this issue. They're not looking at it as like a Fortean topic, they're looking at it as like a
Of
practical
course.
topic,
Yeah.
and there's no answers. So I don't know, that's kind of neat. I think it's neat. Um, but I've never seen the follow-up to any of it, so once they get to
Right.
that date, what happens?
Yeah, the possibilities are intriguing, but we're right back to disclosure. It's just more edging with no fucking payoff. We don't know what happened. We don't know if it was relevant. We don't know if it wasn't just some glitch in her cell phone. Because I mean, that's all like it's all just ones and zeros, right? Like it's all just
Right.
digital shit. So like you can, I mean, well, hell, just now today you can spoof texts if you want. You could probably make them have whatever date and time and whatever,
Sure. Yeah,
because like
nowadays, right.
it's all malleable, and so like it doesn't. I don't think it's outside of the realm of possibility that there was just some weird random glitch that sent her a text from her own phone that just had a weird time and date on it. Just because it has a future date on it doesn't mean it's from the future, right? So who
Sure.
knows?
Yeah, I mean, the payoff to that would have been, had I been able to maintain that friendship and then we were friends when the date came. Because I feel like the date has already, it's been so long ago now, because I was like probably in high school. So, I
Uh,
mean, at least, we're going to say too many years is what we're going to say. How about that? Like 15,
you don't want
um,
to know how long it's been since I was in high school. Then
it's
longer
just,
than 15.
it's been a while. And so I feel like the date was like not that far off, but it went past, the shelf life of our friendship. So
Yeah.
like I said, the payoff would have been, let's get to that date. If nothing happens, it's a glitch, right? If something happens, we know why. But I don't know. Now she was kind of weird anyway, and I have to tell this story in tandem with that one because it's listen. One time we were at a gas station. She was driving. We get in her car, okay, and she goes to close the door. Like I said, she's on the driver's side. For whatever reason, she reached up and she grabbed the door by like the top of the door between like the window and the top of the car. You know what I mean? That little
Sure.
piece. And she
Yeah.
pulls it closed and
On her own hand.
completely fucking closes the door on her whole entire hand. Completely. And
What?
she looks at me, and I look at her, and she starts, like, hysterically laughing, and I'm like, I'm so confused. I'm like, "What is happening?" She, pulls the door handle and has to open the door to get it off
Yeah.
of her hand and pulls her hand back, and it's fine. Her hand's fine. I you
I
know,
think it's possible, but still.
listen, and that's what people have said, it's possible. Every single joint in her fingers would have had to have closed perfectly where there's that teeny tiny gap to where somehow it was just unscathed. Is it possible? Sure. Is it probable? No. It was
Well, there's
so
that
weird.
there's like that soft seal,
Right. And
that
you have like that little gap between like the door itself and the top of the door. But I mean, how big is that
yeah.
gap? It's not big.
Yeah, no, I it's not. I just think like, I don't know how big she is. I don't know how big her hands are.
Sure.
Um but yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's not. Is it weird? Yeah, I mean, what the fuck? Closing a car door on your own hand is weird no matter what. Like, way to go, dingus. Like, why
Right.
would you do that? Like,
I
why,
don't
how does
know.
that seem like an effective way to close the car door? But but I so that in and of itself is bizarre, and I think it could speak towards a pattern of unusual behavior, certainly. Um,
Yeah,
but
it was
yeah, I don't
so
know.
weird. Well, so at the time I was in college. I was an astrophysics student. We had just got done learning about there's a theory in physics where if you can take an object, right? And I can't ever remember what the theory is, and somehow I've never come across it again in my life. You can take any object, right? So say you take a pencil and you slam it against a desk over and over and over again.
Uh,
There is a like there's a chance, I don't know what the minuscule number is, but there is a chance that eventually you are going to hit that pencil in such the correct spot that the atoms of the pencil and the desk will form together and the pencil will actually go through the desk.
sure.
And I was like, did that just fucking happen? Is that what just happened? Like that's a once in a lifetime fucking nobody's ever actually witnessed this except for me and her now. And she's getting text messages from the future and maybe that's what it's about. I don't know. It was so weird. Now I'm not saying that that's exactly what I think or believe. I don't know. I just know what I witnessed and it was fucking bizarre. It was so bizarre. It's the weirdest thing I've ever seen in my life. and I've seen the Mothman. You know what I mean?
Right. No, I mean that is saying something. Like I don't know. I wasn't there. Like I think that's really interesting. And I I'm not gonna say it's impossible, obviously, that her hand briefly like existed in
In the door.
like superposition with the door, uh, and then she opened it and everything went back to normal. Um,
The cool term for
so
it on the internet is, a glitch in the matrix.
right, yeah, that's a phrase that I've heard a lot lately.
Yeah, and that's I
Um,
mean, if any event in my life describes that, it's that.
right, right,
It's so weird. And, I'll be the first to admit it's not entirely impossible, it's just that, like, I have now looked at car doors differently, and I look at
sure,
them, I look at that spot, I'm like, "How much space is there realistically?"
right.
Like,
You're
what would
just
that look
slamming
like?
your hand in car doors constantly, trying to get them to close. You have one hand that's just like a ruined mess
It's totally
because of
mangled.
your obsession with, yeah, it's just constantly mangled.
Everybody's like, "What happened to your hand?" I'm like, "Let me show you."
Right? The truth. That's what happened.
Disclosure. Finally.
Right. You know what
You
this
know.
is? This is a perfect example of the kind of thing that that might be weird, that might be anomalous, might even be paranormal, but we can't reasonably expect anybody to believe it with the
Right.
evidence that we have currently.
Exactly.
It's a
Yeah.
perfect example of that.
Yeah. It's just it was so bizarre. And like I said, anytime I talk about her, like I have to tell both of those things. It depends on which story's first, right? Sometimes the car story is first. Sometimes the text message from the future is first.
Yeah.
But I always have to tell both because why not? I mean, they're just so weird. It's so strange. Um, is she some type of special individual in her own right? Well, sure, everybody is. Why not? You know, do I
Yeah.
think that there's any type of significance there? I don't fucking know. I just know I knew this weird girl, and I wish I knew the outcome of that text message. My one regret in life. I don't know. Um,
Maybe someday.
it's too bad. So we'll see. Maybe it hasn't happened yet. I don't know. But I think it did. I think it did, and I think probably, and she's still alive as far as I know. So there's that.
Look her up. You track down time travel guy.
I know. No, she blocked. No,
That's
it's a
like a
whole
whole weird personal thing. All right, never
yeah, it's a
mind.
whole thing. So
Never. Sorry, I mentioned it.
yeah, it's
Never
a whole
mind.
but somebody that she knows definitely listens to the show. They should ask her
Oh,
for
totally.
me. So
Please do. Do it. If you won't do it for Asherz, do it for me.
yeah,
I know you don't know me, but come on, just be cool.
yeah, do it for Tobias, and let me know what the date is on that message. So and what happened, if anything. Um, but yeah, do you have any other closing remarks or anything else you want to say about time travelers?
Oh boy. I feel like we. I feel like there's so much that you could say, and there's so much that we didn't get into, and so much reported phenomena that
Mhm.
that deals with time travel, that we've only scratched the surface on this. Like I have other stories that frankly we just straight up don't have time to get into in this episode. So maybe someday we'll do a follow up, like a part two or something where we can get into it more. But I find the subject fascinating,
Mhm.
and I think that it's important when we are examining weird phenomena to allow for as many possibilities as our imagination can hold. And so I think it's very valuable when you bring up stuff like, hey, maybe we could re-examine some of these reported hauntings through the lens of other hypotheses, right? Like maybe we could apply different explanations. One of them being something like time slips. So I think it's valuable in that respect, even if for no other reason than it just sort of forces us to allow for myriad possibilities. So, yeah, I think this is great, and I think if anybody wants to reach out with their own experiences with time anomalies, I know I would be fascinated to hear about them. I'm sure you would be fascinated to hear about
Oh
them.
yeah.
And if you've ever power walked in a pink tracksuit uh, near Willie Street in Madison, message me.
Really?
I
Is it
need
was
to
it
know.
really Willie Street?
It was near. It
The
was the
Willie
next.
Street Power Walker. That's it.
Yeah, right. Well, it was actually the next street over.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I lived on Brearley, and then oh god, why am I blanking on the name of the next street over? Whatever. If you're from the area, you know what street
Willie
I'm talking
Street.
about.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, it's like yeah, it's right over there. So just don't worry about it. But yeah, no, if you have, I need to know about it because maybe we saw each other, especially if you've ever seen a guy like a really handsome, smart looking guy walking a dog who vanished. Could have been me. Could have been me.
It could have been. This is a Lost Connections episode now.
Right. Well, oh boy. Yeah, I'm happily married, everybody. I'm not I don't need to hook up with the power walker.
The Willie Street Power Walker.
Mhm. That's right.
Yeah, I am definitely interested if you guys have any of these particular experiences. For sure, reach out. And there's a reason why, like I said before, there's a reason why I didn't we didn't go through case by case and cover notable instances. Like, there's the Charlie Chaplin cell phone lady and the hipster bridge guy. And I mean, there's so many of these cases of alleged time travelers or potential alleged time travelers. Um, I think his name was Andrew Carlson is another one. The man from Torrid. Um, I talked about them already over on the previous episode, and also, um, some of these are debunked, or there's just enough suspension of disbelief to believe that they're not accurate. If you feel that there is a diehard, here is evidence of a time traveler, send it my way. I'll look into it. But I didn't find anything notable besides these potential time slips. Maybe that's what the episode should be renamed, time slips. I don't know. Um,
I think we certainly talked way more about time slips than we ever did time travelers, and I think that's because time slips tend to be way more credible
yeah.
than time travelers. It was Jennifer Street, by the way. I just thought of it.
Jennifer
Yes.
Street.
So it
The
would be the
Street
Jennifer Street Power
Power
Walker.
Walker. I wonder if her
Yeah.
name's Jennifer. Like that's
Maybe
Jennifer of Jennifer
synchronicities on
Street.
synchronicities here.
Uh-oh.
Layers.
You better call up you know who.
Oh
Um,
God.
I know I'm gonna get in trouble just for saying that.
Hard
Um,
pass.
anyway, all right then. Well, guys, with that being said, we definitely have enough to do another part on these topics. If you want to hear them, just let me know, and we will go ahead and get it out there for you. But with all that, guys, we'll see you back here next Wednesday.